Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
1/3 of our nation's nightmare is over. The Dallas Cowboys finally signed someone. Welcome to the Maggie and Perloff show. Perloff here in New York. Maggie at the home studio. The Dallas Cowboys have reached a deal with CeeDee Lamb. $38 million signing bonus, over $100 million, $34 million per year. Maggie, why have we been talking about CeeDee Lamb all summer? We all knew this was going to happen. This is business as usual in Frisco. They got a deal done. I expected it. Honestly, nothing to see here. Let's move on and go 12-5.
All right. Well, if that was that easy and this was the last question that had to be answered by the Dallas Cowboys, then yeah, we'd all be in a great spot. But we know this was only the first domino that had to fall, and there's still a lot of work to be done with Dallas. Here's the one thing I cannot get behind today: the bouquets and the flowers at Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones's feet today. I don't know how many Cowboys fans are really breathing a sigh of relief. I'm sure there were a lot. But to say, oh, Jerry, he got it done. He did it. The old hustler. What did he do? CeeDee Lamb got everything. Apparently, they have been quibbling over $1 million, which to you and I is big money, but not to the Dallas Cowboys and not to their salary cap and not to anything. $1 million was never going to make or break the Dallas Cowboys, and it looks like that's essentially what this was all about. So, you know, to me, I can't say, wow, Jerry, did it again. He pulled it off at the 11th hour. Mm-hmm. This is ridiculous. This should have happened weeks ago. They should have been even further down the road on the Dak Prescott deal, which now we can talk about whether that gets done. But I can't exactly start throwing parades for the Cowboys. You set all in, and you signed one guy, the one guy wearing 88, who everyone knew was going to be a Cowboy for a long time.
I'm just curious, Maggie. Where is this person who said, oh, look, that old hustler got it done? There's nobody who said that. There's nobody throwing a parade. Not a single. Cowboys fans know this drill like the back of their hand. Nobody said anything to that effect. Honestly, is anybody out there saying, oh, Jerry mastered this? I think the Cowboys, I don't think it was just $1 million. They were probably trying to get more years out of this deal like they always are trying to do. And all the players now want 4-year deals. I don't think that this was just about $1 million. You're right. Everyone knew it was going to be $34 million. When Justin Jefferson and the Vikings signed for $35 million, everyone's like, oh, well, CeeDee Lamb is just as good, but maybe 1% lower. So it was always going to be $34 million. They were, I think, almost certainly arguing over the years. Here's my question, Maggie. Pushing this so close to the season, does this risk his health? Does this risk the Cowboys' chances of success? Was this too close to the sun with this contract?
Well, I'll tell you, if CeeDee Lamb pulls a hamstring tomorrow, then we're going to say it is. I don't know. I don't know if it's so like this or that, because I want to believe, especially someone like Lamb, great work ethic. I'm assuming he's keeping himself in tip-top shape. I know when I did a show with Bart Scott, he said he liked working out with his personal trainer more than the team trainers at times because it was so tailor-made to his body, and it wasn't the sort of, what's good for all the receivers is good, for me. And so maybe in some ways this ends up being better for his conditioning and all that. The playbook's not changing much. They said there's a few tweaks with some language and verbiage. No one's questioning whether CeeDee Lamb's not going to be able to get up to speed, in another week. So I don't know about that. But if you're asking me who's the person who's trying to take victory laps for this, it's Jerry. And that should really tick people off. Now, I'm not sure how many people got to see this Clarence Hill interview with Jerry Jones. It's not on camera, which is probably not preferred by Jerry, but he's loose in this one. And he's letting the expletives fly about how he's the best general manager for the Dallas Cowboys. No one else can do this job better than he can. He's not going anywhere. He's 81 years old. He feels good. And kind of like no one else has their thumb on the pulse of the organization in football more than him. And he basically deserves this Lifetime Achievement Award because he bought the Dallas Cowboys in 1989. And that to me is scary because even the best leaders, even the guys with the biggest egos, the biggest decision is when you turn it over to someone else, a succession plan. Hell, there was an entire HBO series about it. It was awesome. When do you turn the keys over? And I think that the Dallas Cowboy fans are probably hoping sooner rather than later. And the fact they got CeeDee Lamb done and basically got CeeDee everything he wants doesn't mean Jerry still has the fastball on this one. So if you're asking who wants the parade, it's the owner/GM.
Do you really think Jerry's running the show there, Maggie? Do you really think Jerry's making all these awesome draft picks?
Well, he says the buck stops with him. So I don't know about the draft picks, but I think
that's a pretty big role of a GM. I think there's somebody else shadow running this team because they had looks like another amazing draft this year. Like, amazing.
No, it's great. And Will McClay and the guys behind the scenes who probably don't get nearly enough credit because Jerry's out there sucking up all the oxygen. Yeah, they probably do deserve a lot more praise. However, Jerry said in this article, and I have no reason not to believe him, and they treat him like this in public, so no one's undercutting him or undermining him, that the buck stops with him.
And the buck might stop with him, but these, there's obviously a committee going on, and I think you're painting a picture where Jerry Jones is sort of pulling the strings, Godfather style.
He's painting that picture, not me.
But that's Jerry. Of course, he's painting that picture. Why are you all of a sudden taking Jerry at his word?
Well, I mean, listen, you and I now speak fluent Jerry. We were grad students a year ago. We spent a semester abroad, in Jerry land, and now we've come back with the Jerry fluency.
When you're general manager, of which I am.
Yeah. And he's not going anywhere, guys. I just think that whether the draft picks is different, right? Because the draft picks, I think, is a different department. I'm sure he's involved. But that slots in terms of how much these guys get paid. It's pretty easy, actually. It's kind of turnkey. When it comes to whether you're going to pay CeeDee Lamb or pay Dak Prescott or pay Micah Parsons, that's where Jerry wants the credit. That's where he's saying, I know where the buck stops, and it's up to me. I'm the final say. And so, on what should be a very good day for the Cowboys, yes, you did get CeeDee Lamb done finally. I just think I would hold off on, feeling great about this because Jerry sort of doubled down that he's the guy. And I don't think that they've done this. I don't think they've handled these contracts in a great way. So for me, that would be very concerning.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I always thought CeeDee Lamb was going to get done, and it did get done. Obviously, the big question is Dak Prescott. And I'm still not even sure, as we sit here and talk about it, I'm not sure what the right move is. If Jerry really is the GM, which I don't believe for 1 second that he drafted any of these guys, then he's got a much bigger decision than CeeDee Lamb. Will you give me that, Maggie? Like, whoever makes that decision is really running the show. And the goal is to win a Super Bowl, not go 12-5. And honestly, as we sit here today, I'm not sure I could tell you that the smartest GM in the world would re-sign Dak Prescott right now. They might move on and say, listen, you need a certain kind of quarterback to win a Super Bowl. I don't know if Dak is that. So you can't say that Jerry is making bad moves as a GM when it comes to that, because I think a lot of GMs would do exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, the really good GMs actually would have gotten Dak Prescott done a year ago.
But are you sure though? Because the really good GMs want to win a Super Bowl, and I don't think Jerry Jones or anyone in Dallas is sure that Dak Prescott can win a Super Bowl.
Okay, well, and then again, the really good GMs would have someone in the pipeline that's maybe not Trey Lance, which is like a lottery ticket still. But it's a great point. I mean, what do you do with Dak? It's funny. Yeah, you and I have gone back and forth on this. It's like whatever way the wind blows, all these little different reports. We now have a massive bet on this Dak Prescott contract where I think that he's going to be gone after this year. You think he's going to stay. The loser has to go sit at a Waffle House for 24 hours and for every waffle we eat, we get 1 hour lopped off the time. I mean, this is serious stakes here for you and I. And I'm going to be honest, Pearl, I woke up this morning very nervous. For myself, for my stomach, for my digestive system, for the amount of syrup that I might have to consume, because CeeDee Lamb getting done and still having over a week to go to get the Dak Prescott deal done is making me a little nervous for our Waffle House bet. I'm going to be honest. It's the first time I thought, can I get out of this somehow, or what? Like, is there a way for me to somehow snake out of this bet?
Well, I got 2 bites at the apple here, Maggie, because they were right. I still think the odds are against him signing Dak Prescott before the season starts, but I know they are reportedly talking.
Yeah.
I still think, and this is what I was counting on when we made this bet, is that after the season's over, it's going to be exactly like last time with Dak Prescott, where he lets his contract run out and then he signs a massive deal. Because if he's in a free agency market, the Cowboys need a quarterback. Dak needs a big deal. They're a perfect marriage in free agency. Like, I don't think they can quit each other, Maggie. I think, and is this the ideal way to run a franchise? No, but I still think, like, you're kind of ripping Jerry for the way, or you're ripping whoever's running the team for the way they're running the team. We know that, they know how to make a 12-5 football team. We have 3 years of evidence of that. So I feel like you're being a little overly critical of the CeeDee Lamb, not of the CeeDee Lamb deal in particular, but I'm not saying give Jerry flowers, but this is business as usual for the Cowboys. And I don't think the way we've been describing this offseason, it's been like it's total chaos there and Big D. It's just not. I think that this is sort of much more normal and kind of what we should have expected.
Listen, the biggest thing about the Cowboys, of course, we're talking about CeeDee Lamb signing his big extension yesterday and what does it mean for the team. The biggest thing with the Cowboys, and every Cowboy fan knows this, is the disconnect between the regular season and the postseason.
Right.
So, like, the fact that they're letting Mike McCarthy, if you're saying they've put together this great team and they play great and they are this great team, so they should keep things status quo, well, then why is Mike McCarthy on the hot seat? Nobody's won more regular season games over the last 3 years besides Andy Reid than Mike McCarthy. He should have a lifetime contract for 12 win seasons. Jason Garrett was turning in 8-8s. I know, but see, that's the thing about the Cowboys. This is the unique part and pressure of what this season is about, is because, yeah, you can say run it back 12-5 and they could win the NFC East. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And so you can have Dak Prescott is a good quarterback. Mike McCarthy is a good coach. And Dak Prescott got better under Mike McCarthy. And nobody cares because they got smoked by the Green Bay Packers. And so if you were actually running this team looking at the regular season results, you'd sign everybody. You'd keep everybody the same. There's teams out there who would die for 12-win seasons like that and that kind of consistency. And they're not doing that. So they're showing you and telling you that 12 wins isn't good enough, and that creates chaos because now everything's on the table. It's not good to have a lame duck coach. It's not. Especially if you are actually happy with the results that he's giving you in the regular season, then I disagree with you. I think that there's definitely shades of chaos here. It's not like burning to the ground, like guys getting arrested and stuff like that, but there's a certain type of organizational chaos because there's such a wide gap between the regular season and the postseason with this team.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And listen, I'm not going to argue about that fact that they've been disappointing in the postseason. But I think we create some of the chaos like most, 31 other teams. If they had the same offseason, I think it would be viewed completely differently. And I know you don't like when I say this, but we look at the star just differently. Like every little move is inspected 10 times over. The reality is that they're actually a much more stable franchise than I think we give them the credit. I don't think it's chaos. Yes, I don't think they've gotten over the top, but there's definitely a stability here. In a sense, at least I'll give you this. They've had the same GM team for a long, long time. Whether they know what they're doing, that's a totally different question. But I can't say that this is chaos. It feels, the chaos was that the hotel lit on fire. Other than that, I just think that it's actually the opposite of chaos. It's the same thing happening again and again and again and again. It might be the wrong thing, but it feels like if you actually pull back, it's probably the most consistent franchise in the entire league.
Yeah, but see, here's where I'm going to disagree with you is because you're saying that it's us, the media, because we put so much emphasis on what the Cowboys do because the fan base is so spread out. Yeah. I don't think so. I think it's them. They play into this. Who are other coaches, if you were by the Dallas Cowboys metric, should also be on the hot seat, and these are not lame duck coaches. What has Sean McDermott done? What has John Harbaugh done for you in the last decade? These are other teams.
John Harbaugh?
I'm just saying, Pearl, these are other teams that need to get over the hump, right? Who are the questions? Harbaugh. Well, he won a Super Bowl in 2012, so I'll give you that. But with Lamar Jackson, they have not gotten over a hump.
They win 14 games a year. John Harbaugh's not on the. There's no hot seat on earth that's gonna have John Harbaugh on. Well, actually, a few years ago he was on the hot seat, but regardless, I just.
Okay, what about Sean McDermott? Sean McDermott.
Yeah,
they win 12 and 13 games. The Bills do. They can't. They cannot beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Right. Besides talking to me, because I'm an insane Bills fan, have you heard one peep about Sean McDermott being on the hot seat?
Exactly, because people care about the Cowboys.
No, it's because the Bills don't let him get...
Nobody cares if Sean McDermott's on the hot seat. Sean McDermott could walk into 97% of houses in America. No one would even know who he was.
No.
That's the point. Like, yes, Sean McDermott, nobody cares about Sean McDermott's future because he's in Buffalo. I'm telling you, it's all about the Cowboys.
If Sean McDermott was in the final year of his deal, and so was Josh Allen, we'd be talking about it. This is not a total media conversation. This is how did the Cowboys, they've let this get to this point. And there are other coaches who have success in the regular season who haven't gotten over the hump in the postseason. And it's not nearly the amount of chaos because they don't let them dangle out here like this.
We follow the NFL so closely on this show, and we have no idea the status of 85% of the coaches. I don't know where. I don't know if there are other coaches last year. Coaches' contracts are just not a thing that people talk about at all. Bill Belichick had this mystery contract out there for years that no one even had access to. So don't tell me that all of a sudden, like, Mike McCarthy's contract status would be a huge deal in any other team. I mean, you can look at so many different teams who, like, I have no idea what the deal is with that guy. So I think you can't. I know you don't like when I say it's a media story, but the Cowboys are a media story. Of course they are.
Perloff, do you remember what happened with Mike Tomlin after they lost that playoff game to Buffalo? Mm-hmm. He got asked about being the last year of his deal, and he walked off the podium without saying anything. It was a story for weeks, and then they put out a statement, we've signed him to an extension. The other team, the Cowboys, are the ones who are responsible for this, not the media. Okay, the media, we cover them a lot. I'm not going to deny that.
But
don't tell me there's not other coaches out there who could be on the hot seat, and the team takes care of it and makes it not a story. Jerry does the opposite. Mm-hmm. He pumps this up to the point where, this is pressure. This is major pressure, and we do know about Mike McCarthy's contract because they want us to know about it. And they want us to know about Dak Prescott because they like keeping themselves in the news, and they like having this all or nothing or whatever they're setting up for this year. We do talk about other coaches, but the teams make sure that you can nip this in the bud if you want, if you're a team. You can paper mache this. They could have given McCarthy another year. It would have taken him off the lame duck status, and they have chosen not to do that. So I don't want to get blamed as the media when this is Jerry's situation. This is their fault.
There's no
not
blame.
Ours.
There's no fault. There's no blame. I think you're out of your mind if you think the Cowboys are generating this and not the media. I know as a fact there are two giant companies, ESPN and Fox, who had shed numbers that said, when you talk about the Cowboys, people tune in. So we are going to talk about the Cowboys 24/7. If you think the Cowboys are generating this and not the fan interest, it's not even the media, it's fan interest.
That's sad.
I think that you're just dead wrong. Like, I don't care if they could have Paul Brown as the coach and GM. They get the most stable. They get Bill Walsh. It doesn't matter. We're going to talk about the Cowboys. The reality is the Cowboys have had, once again, one of the most boring off seasons of all time, but we've turned it into a 5-alarm fire constantly every day. Is CD coming back? Are they going to re-sign Dak? What about Micah? It's just, it doesn't matter. We'll find something to talk about with the Cowboys. And the reality is we should be talking about Jerod Bland's injury, and we don't even care about that. But the point is, like, they are actually a boring franchise in a sense. They draft offensive linemen every year, and they all turn out to be good.
Yeah,
that's boring.
That's one part, but having your coach on the hot seat, having your quarterback dangle out here like this, and I'll push back. We talked about Brandon Aiyuk for weeks.
That was a waste of energy too, but anyway.
Well, he's still not signed, and I don't know how the CeeDee Lamb contract, we'll talk about how that maybe impacts Brandon Aiyuk. I understand. We like talking about the Cowboys, but here's the thing. They created this.
They did. They did not. We did.
What other coach is in the final year of his deal? We know.
Idea. I don't know if Doug Peterson, I have no idea. I don't know where anybody is in any of their deals, except for you just mentioned, Mike Tomlin just re-signed his deal. I forgot about that. Do you have any idea? I know the first-year guys probably had 3 or 4 years. Coaches, the length of coaches' contract are not common knowledge. Do you think they are?
Yeah, I think when they're on hot seats, because I don't.
How many years? Okay,
because
Robert Saleh, how many years does he have left?
They just all said that if they don't get to the playoffs, they're all getting fired.
How many years are left on his contract?
I think 1. Because he's not in the last year of his deal.
How about Dennis Allen?
Who knows?
Nobody knows the length of contract. I'm just saying that this final year of a contract for a coach is not necessarily the same as a final year for a player. But now we're arguing. We're getting nitpicky. We got to actually move on, and we got to talk about something more important, something more relevant. The 85 Bears, Maggie.
Oh, my gosh, I know. I'm so the 85 Bears, but how about Georgia football?
Okay. We could talk Georgia football, too, but 85 Bears that was a team that had the opposite of boring. They were the most interesting team in the history of sports.
Still
We're talking
are.
a little Georgia football. Can we just say who we have, Mag? Or should we just give it up? Because people might think it's Mike Singletary. No, we have Kevin Butler, the kicker, who actually for a certain generation, like every single member of the Bears was a celebrity, including the kicker, who's also Was he the first Hall of Fame kicker in College Football Hall of Fame?
Yes, and he's going to be the honorary captain for the upcoming Georgia-Clemson game that's going to happen, this kickoff game in Atlanta, which is going to be awesome. I've already picked Clemson to win the ACC. I feel like I have a lot on the line there, but we have a lot to do, and Kevin Butler is going to join us in a few minutes.
Awesome. That's next. Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff show. That got a little ugly in the first segment, arguing about the Cowboys. Should we be alarmed? Should we be happy for Jerry? You can weigh in, 855-212-4227. But Maggie, this is really exciting. This is fun, you have to admit.
Yeah, absolutely love. Then we can talk to somebody who's made history in their lives, and that's Kevin Butler, who is a college football Hall of Famer, not only a legend at Georgia, but also with the 85 Bears in Chicago as a Super Bowl champion. He is the honorary captain for the kickoff game, the Aflac kickoff game, I should say, in Atlanta. You had one of your greatest moments, Kevin. Thank you so much for joining us. Of your illustrious kicking career, one of your greatest moments actually came against Clemson. You nailed a 60-yarder against them. It's known as the kick. So what kind of memories does it bring up to watch Georgia and Clemson play this weekend?
Well, it's really exciting. I appreciate being with you guys, too, this morning. And, college football's here. And not a bigger start for the University of Georgia than when we opened with Clemson. You know, when back in the 80s when I played, it was a rivalry that, pitted up the national champions of 80 and national champions of 81. We opened on Memorial night in 82 under the lights at Georgia. So it was a big game all the time. Recruiting was very tight. The schools are very close. And the competition back then was at the highest level in college football. So it ended up my senior year. We had gone back and forth. We lost my freshman year to them. They won the national championship. We beat them my sophomore year. We lost the national championship to Penn State that year. And we tied my junior year with each of us trying I believe it was a 67-yard field goal and then a 66-yard field goal for each team. Both to no avail, and we walked away 16-all tie. And then my senior year, it came back. Clemson was ranked number 2 in the nation. It was our big game for us early in the season. They beat us up in the first half. I think they were winning 20-6 at halftime, and we got back out there, got a couple of turnovers, scored some points, tied the game up, and we went down to the last few seconds, and we were out there for a 60-yarder, and Coach Dooley just put me out there, and I think he had all the confidence in the world I could kick it that far. We just didn't get many chances to do that, and luckily it wasn't a matter of distance. It was just a matter of making sure it went through the uprights, and it did, and that turned into a long Saturday night, and that turned into a long week, so it was a lot of fun.
Kevin, when you look at college football today, how different is it from the early 80s? I know it might look the same on TV, but behind the scenes, it feels like a different sport, almost more of a professional sport than it was 40 years ago.
Yeah, that's a good observation, and I agree with you. It really is. I've been doing radio for Georgia for the last 17 years, so the one thing I like to do at each game is I walk around that field and size up the other team, and then walk over there and size up Georgia. And I recall back in 2015, Alabama came into Georgia, and I walked around the field, and I walked over to our assistant who does all the headphones, and I walked over to him. I said, "We're about to get rolled." He's like, "I love our guys." I go, "I love our guys too, but that's the biggest damn team I've ever seen in my life." And that's exactly what happened. The depth of that team Alabama had that year had no drop off, and I think that's where Georgia finds themselves now. Their depth resembles a professional team. You're going to play 17 games if you're going to win a championship now. That's an NFL season. The guys on a whole are bigger across the board than the NFL team. Does that make them better than an NFL team? No, but size-wise, they are bigger than an NFL team across the board. So that gives them a little bit of an advantage against teams that don't have that depth. And I think that's really what's going to play the biggest factor this year in the new playoff system is those teams that can have some injuries and put that second and third team player in there and still not have a drop off of the performance.
Kevin Butler is joining us. He's going to be the honorary captain for the Aflac kickoff game in Atlanta, Georgia, and Clemson. Of course, a legend at Georgia as a kicker, a college football Hall of Famer, then went on to the Chicago Bears, won a Super Bowl with the Bears, played 11 seasons with the Chicago Bears. And I guess, the fact that you're so honest about the team, Kevin, is great. If you can self-scout just for a moment with Georgia, you mentioned the depth and how big the team is and how fierce they look. If there's anything that's going to be standing in the way between Georgia and another national championship, what is it?
Well, I think it's replacing the players that made the team move. First of all, receiver. We lost Ladd McConkey. We lost Brock Bowers. Those two guys accounted for probably 55 to 60% of our downfield plays. Our plays came on third down. They were kind of unstoppable, and it's hard to replace that. So we've got to get some young kids and some transfers in that can create some separation on that receiver position. And it's got to be complemented by probably our biggest question mark, and that's running back. We've had some ETN is in here from Florida, but we're not sure if he's going to make it to the game this weekend with some off-field issues that he has to be responsible for. And we've got some great young players that we're going to see this weekend. But I think those are really the two positions that if you have concern at the University of Georgia, you need to see those guys step out. You need to see them create a little persona of who they're going to be. Are they going to be that go-to receiver? Are they going to be the tight end that kind of fills in for Brock? We're going to need at least two players to make that gap for Brock. He was such an unbelievable player. When you don't have somebody like that, how is it going to affect the team mentally? Who is going to be that go-to guy in crunch time? And we're going to see some crunch times against a Clemson team that is very talented. They know how to prepare. And anytime you have 4 to 5 months to prepare for an opening game, every opponent's going to be formidable.
Kevin, who do you think the biggest threat to Georgia in the SEC is?
Well, with the new schedule and having to go into Texas, I think that's a threat. I think going down to Ole Miss this year, Lane has done a great job of not only developing that program, but they went out and they played the free agent market, and they've made themselves stronger on that defensive line, the defensive front. I think that's kind of what they were lacking last year. So those are the two games that really stick their head up to me off the bat, going down to Texas, just a new area, a new atmosphere. It's going to be crazy. Hopefully a F1 car doesn't come through the middle of the stadium. I know they got everything happening that weekend in Austin, so it'll be electric. But I think Georgia understands how to play on the road. I think that Kirby has done a great job with, kind of getting them in that business type trip mode. And when you have a college team that you're not quite sure how they're going to perform in a new environment, the more that you can keep them steady to a program, not let them deter one way or the other. That's one thing Kirby does a wonderful job with.
Kevin Butler is the College Football Hall of Famer. He's also the honorary captain for the Aflac kickoff game in Atlanta, Georgia, Clemson, legend at Georgia, and we mentioned also a Super Bowl champion with the Chicago Bears 85. Now, we talk a lot about old school coaches versus new school coaches on this show, Kevin, and there's no one more old school than Mike Ditka. So I'd love to know, can you walk up to a coach like Mike Ditka as a young kicker and say, Coach, I got this from 60 yards. I've got this from 61. Can you lobby him to try to get in the game at that point?
Well, you got to be careful going up to Mike Ditka about anything. That's the first thing I learned. When I was drafted by the Bears, obviously the Clemson kick was something that was mentioned. I kicked a lot of long field goals, so I went in there, with people in Chicago and the coaches feeling like, well, he's always going to want to kick these long kicks. And first game against Tampa Bay, I had made the team. It came down to right before halftime, and all of a sudden they're calling my name, and I run up there and he goes, try the field goal. And I was like, trying to field goal, where are we? And it was a 64-yard field goal. And I got out there, it was right before halftime, and Steve Fuller was my Clemson quarterback, one of the retired numbers. He was my holder, and he's like, he goes, you got this? And I'm like, yeah, my heart was beating. I remember kicking that 64-yarder. It made it through the end zone, but I think it just barely got over Keith Van Horn's head, our tackle. And as I turned around, Ditka was already walking to me, and he just looked at me and goes, don't ask me to kick a long field goal again. And I was like, I didn't even ask you for this one. What are you talking about? So he kind of nipped it in the butt right there. So I didn't ever go up to him and ask him for those type of field goals. You know, Chicago was so much different to me, getting out there, working with the winds, kicking off of turf. You know, it was just things I had never done at Georgia. You know, I always grew up playing on grass. We may had one game a year that was on AstroTurf. So it was an adjustment, but I think I had the right attitude that meshed with Coach Ditka. Coach Dooley gave me that opportunity, very disciplined coach. So I worked very hard, and that's really what got me accepted, not only by my teammates in Chicago, but by the fans. I used to be the leading scorer, as we were talking about. Robbie Gould beat me there. Several people beat me at Georgia. The only thing I got left at Chicago was I never had a kickoff run back. I can honestly say I probably had more tackles than any kicker in the NFL in modern history. I've tackled Deion Sanders, Barry Sanders, Herschel Walker, Mel Gray. Every time I tackled them, I would get hurt. So I'm not acting like I'm a football player, but that was just one thing that kind of endeared me to the fans of Chicago.
Kevin, we don't have a lot of time left. I have 1,085 Bears questions. I'm of that generation. I'll just ask one. Why do you think the Bears didn't win another Super Bowl? Why did Ditka and your group not get another ring?
Well, we got beat. I mean, we got beat in the playoffs by Washington. That was really the one. Darrell Green ran a punt back late in the game. We had home field advantage. We didn't play sharp that day. We played good enough to win, but we didn't. And at that point, as you were talking about, y'all been able to meet Jim McMahon. He came out with a book called McMahon. I remember getting on a bus and him going, hey, read chapter 6. And it's a real quick read. And I read it and I shut the book. I looked at him. I go, man, it was good playing with you. He's like, well, what do you mean? I go, man, you called our owner a few pretty bad names in this chapter. And it was probably about 3 weeks later, they traded him, if I recall correctly, in our preseason game. They came up to Jim, who was my locker mate, and said, you can take your stuff over to San Diego's locker. We have traded you to them. Traded him the day of the game and sent him home after the game to San Diego, and that was the end of it. And it kind of fell apart. We got into free agency at that point. Wilbur Marshall left. He was the first guy that really hit free agency, and things started changing. I think the McCaskies found out that they weren't running their program, and Jerry Venesi and Mike Ditka were, and that just didn't hold a lot of weight.
You got to be really excited about what Chicago has now. The Caleb Williams, just the preseason, Kevin, is enough to get everyone really hyped that this could be the greatest quarterback in Bears history. Maybe not to put too much pressure on the young guy.
Yeah, well, he's got a lot of pressure on him. You know, Chicago puts as much pressure on you as they can, but they sure look good in preseason. But as I always said, I don't think we won a game in our preseason year. We won the Super Bowl. So he's going to see a lot more than he's seen in preseason. That first game, the defense coordinator is going to open up their book. So it's still going to be a learning process for him, but he's got a lot of great talent around him. I really like their defense. I think their defense is loaded, and their defense is going to be able to keep them in games. And if he can get a little bit comfortable back there, he's got a lot of talent around him. So, everybody in Chicago is thinking Super Bowl right now. So that's the way we do it in Chicago.
Man, well, maybe we'll get you as an honorary captain for one of those Bears games. For now, though, you get this distinction to be at the Aflac kickoff game. You're the honorary captain, Clemson, Georgia. Great memories of the kick and your illustrious college football career and pro career. Kevin, thank you so much, and enjoy the game.
My pleasure. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Wow. What a football life, Maggie. That is so cool.
I know. We didn't have enough time. I want to ask, who's the toughest person he ever played with? Think about those guys. College, pro.
That's like
how many tough guys?
Well, I mean, the Chicago Bears, that was nothing but tough guys. I mean, your quarterback was the toughest guy. Your coach was insanely tough. And then you had Wilbur Marshall and Mike Singletary and Dave Duerson and a bunch of crazy guys on defense. So I think that would have been an impossible question. Yeah, I feel like something was missing in that segment there, Maggie. Our middle segment, in the middle of the hour, there's usually, what is that we usually do? I can't remember. Oh, this guy, Andrew Bogusch, is sitting here. The whole time, Maggie, you're at the home studio today.
Yeah.
He's sort of quietly staring at me.
And stewing.
Yeah,
Here's the thing.
stewing.
Good morning, folks. Can we just move the update and can we just do it in the next segment? Because we've got headlines. We've got big news from yesterday.
Maggie,
whatever you want.
We have to call his agent. We're in negotiations. We have Jerry Jones
He's
on
holding
the phone.
in.
We have Jerry. Yeah, Andrew Bogusch
I am
is
actually.
holding in. He's holding in. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, here but not working.
You figured it out.
All right, let's take a break. Coming up next, Andrew Bogusch better deliver. Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break.
Hello, American. I, Perloff was a nerd. Ernest was the football star, always being heard. But forget about the past, let's get to Pete, the guy who skips work like it's a track meet. Ernest Pendleton, thought you were the king. But Perloff's the one who's doing his thing. Speaking of kings, let's talk about Pete, who never shows up, his presence is beat. Lottie's got a gift, it's called disappearing. When it's time for work, he's nowhere near it. Out sick, on leave, or on a special trip. But showing up on time, he just lets it slip. Ernest Pendleton, thought you were the king. But Perloff's the one who's doing his thing. And speaking of kings, let's talk about Pete, who never shows up, his presence is beat. Lottie's got a gift, it's called disappearing. When it's time for work, he's nowhere near it. Out sick, on leave, or on a special trip. But showing up on time, he just lets it slip. Ernest Pendleton, thought you were the king. But Perloff's the one who's doing his thing. And speaking of kings, let's talk about Pete, who never shows up, his presence is beat. Oh! Clocking in, he might just pass while Perloff's here working, kicking some class. Lottie's the master of the great vanishing act. One day he's here, then he's gone, that's a fact. While Perloff's on the grind, putting in the time, Lottie's MIA like it's some kind of crime. Ernest Pendleton, thought you were the king. But Perloff's the one who's doing his thing. And speaking of kings, let's talk about Pete, who never shows up, his presence is beat. So Ernest is just a footnote in Perloff's tale. But Lottie, he's the king of the no-show trail. Perloff's still shining day after day, while Lottie's out there always MIA. Landlord, Marion High, where Perloff was a nerd. Ernest was a football star, his name was heard. But fast forward now, who's the real champ? Perloff's on the mic while Ernest is just a stamp. Oh, Ernest Pendleton thought thought you were the king, but Perloff's the one who's doing his thing. And speaking of kings, let's talk about Pete, who never shows up, can't keep a seat.
1 minute remaining.
It's hard to deny, from missing work like it's pie in the sky. He's the Houdini of the office space, gone without a trace, not a single face. Oh, Ernest Pendleton thought you were the king, but Perloff's the one who's doing his thing. And speaking of kings, let's talk about Pete, who never shows up, can't keep a seat.
15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff. That was great having Kevin Butler, former Georgia kicker, former 85 Bears kicker. God, that guy has clearly forgotten way more football than any of us know. I didn't realize that Clemson and Georgia went back-to-back in titles back in the day, because I always thought of Clemson and Georgia as like a Peach Bowl matchup where they were good but not that good. But wow, now they're obviously have had 4 titles in the last 8 years, so that's going to be a great matchup. Meanwhile, it was tough to do the interview here in the New York studio, Maggie, because the whole time there's a certain person who is just staring at me. He's not even looking at his computer screen. He's just staring at me. It's like, when is the update coming? Typical.
Yeah, ask one more 40-year-old football question. Don't worry, I'll wait.
See what I'm
What's it like
Maggie?
kicking?
See, when you're not
Those
here,
are Dicka stories, man.
yeah. When you're not here,
gold.
Forget it. Like, he's not on his best behavior. So, all right, Andrew Bogus, give us some updates.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Headlines belatedly sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Protect your home and auto. Save when you bundle. Get a quote at Progressive.com. Aaron Judge doesn't need help in yesterday's poll question against Shohei Ohtani, but he did this anyway last night in D.C.
Swung on and hit in the air to deep left center field. Back on the track as Judge leaps up against the wall and makes the catch. Oh, what a play by Judge. And he gets it back in, and they're gonna double him at first. They get the double play. Oh, what a play by Judge, leaping at the wall, taking away a possible home run or at least a double, and somehow getting it back in, and they're doubling up the runner at first.
You'd think no one had ever robbed a home run before. Ricky Ricardo on Yankees radio. Judge did slack off at the plate. No homers last night. Just the 1,000th hit of his career. The Yankees beat the Nationals 5-2. Their lead on idle Baltimore atop the AL East is 2 full games this morning. The Mariners dropped the Rays 5-1, while the Astros were losing in 10 and Philly 3-2. So Seattle is now 3.5 games behind Houston in the AL West. The Cubs had 21 hits and 8 stolen bases in an 18-8 rout of the Pirates. And it's loss number 101 for the White Sox, 9-4 to the Tigers. Those Cowboys apparently stayed busy after signing CeeDee Lamb to that mega deal, flying free agent running back Dalvin Cook into town last night. It'll work out for them today. Cook, a bust for the Jets last season, but now says he's 100% recovered from shoulder surgery, feeling as good as he has in years. Puka Nacua at Rams practice yesterday for the first time since hurting a knee August 5th. Sean McVay says Nacua is on track for Week 1. And the Titans sent Malik Willis to Green Bay for a 7th-round pick. And finally, guys, Duke phenom Cooper Flagg has an NIL deal with New Balance, apparently as a 17-year-old targeting the 40-year-old dad market, because both Pearl and I proudly wearing New Balance kicks this morning.
Wow.
You can see it on the stream. We're holding up our Big N shoes. Now,
Proud of you guys.
Are we cooler than Cooper Flagg if we already had New Balances?
So I went to the New Balance website to see what's the deal here.
They have a website?
Yeah. No, but it's a great.
No, it's two cans with string holding it together. That's how you call to order.
I thought you used a carrier pigeon to get your sneakers. That's how it worked.
There's a picture of Cooper Flagg holding a newspaper, and the newspaper says Cooper Flagg, the intelligent choice, in his backyard by a rim. So they are presenting Cooper Flagg as the smart basketball player, but he's going to Duke, which is impossible to get to. So that's their ad campaign. Cooper Flagg, the intelligent choice. And he's reading the paper like he's looking at stock market quotes.
Yeah.
Is this a good ad campaign?
Don Draper would never. If you guys are Mad Men fans. It's a real zag, as they say. While everyone's trying to be really cool, here's Cooper Flagg just reading the Wall Street Journal and relaxing in his dad shoes. It's going to hit some demographic.
Well, it's better than whoever said let's have Kawhi and Jack Harlow play 1-on-1. That ad hit because they play it again and again. Here's some of their other guys. Here are their other guys they have. They have Jamal Murray. Is that an exciting player? He's a nice Canadian man. DeJounte Murray. They have the Murray's corner. Darius Garland. Oh, they have Tyrese Maxey. He's cool. Yep. They have Cameron Brink. I know they definitely use her in a lot of ads.
Yeah.
Aaron Nesmith. That's probably not the best.
Well, they've got Shohei.
They got New Balance has Shohei.
Yes, and they have Coco Gauff. It's not as lame as you and I.
Well, New Balance are kind of cool. It depends. There's different kinds of New Balance also. There's like the dad shoe. It's all white, like a Steph Curry kind of number, which is not New Balance. But there's also like hip New Balance.
Yeah.
Like I live in Brooklyn, and they're actual cool people who wear New Balance, just so we're all clear about that.
I have a pair of colorful ones that I get complimented on all the time as if I'm cool.
Yeah. You can. Well, I don't think it's like a $700 pair of Nikes. Like, it's not that cool. Like, where people are like, oh,
it's
that's
not
a work of
expensive,
art.
but people have like cooler young people like him, and those are nice sneakers. I'm like, thank you.
Well, that's that. Manny and EJ, you guys are both younger and cool. What do you think of New Balance?
They're all right.
I wouldn't wear them.
No. I believe EJ said I wouldn't be caught dead, or something to that effect.
Yeah. Because Perloff asked me what would happen if I went to the courts wearing New Balance, and I was like, I'd get laughed off the court. Are you kidding me? I want to play that day. So I'm surprised by this.
Easy knees. Maybe you should be wearing New Balances.
Good support.
I know, right? I got hurt at Nikes. But my question about that though is Duke is a kind of famously Nike school. Is he going to be wearing New Balances playing for Duke?
Nope.
He can't. Right.
Yep.
So
this is purely like a hey, when you get to the NBA, dude, this is when we're going to really cash in on this, because aside from him, maybe some commercials, NIL stuff on his Instagram, they're not going to get much pub from this.
Oh no, I think they're going to get more pub from him not wearing them on. They're getting a ton of pub. This story was huge, EJ. I totally disagree.
I mean, he's from Maine.
But he's not wearing New Balances in the games. Then, what difference does it make?
Because he's going to be in a lot of ads that are going to run during the game, which is so funny. Because he'll be in ads. I mean, come on, Cooper Flagg. I think it's a name, by the way. Cooper Flagg. It's such a cool name. If his name was Billy Smith, I don't think he has a New Balance deal.
I mean, he almost made the Olympic team. I think he would be really. I think even if he was Billy Smith, I think we don't. But the fact that he's
Ernest Pendleton,
I totally disagree with that. I honestly think Cooper Flagg is the coolest name ever, and I think that's a huge part of this. And I will not come off that take.
I agree with that.
Wow, all name team.
He is a cool name. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Ace Bailey, there's a guy who's prospected 2 years who has a difficult name to say. He's nothing to anybody. He's never going to
Victor Wembanyama by chance?
No. I mean, he's going to get, I don't even know, Itonic or Saucony. Because
you think AJ whatever is going to get
AJ DeBenza?
Bargain basement sneaks?
Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do, but then you're wrong.
You realize one of the most famous athletes of all time is named Tom Brady. It's the most. It's the lamest obvious name.
Yeah, but you don't think LeBron is in the Jordan LeBron debate because his name is LeBron? Of course.
The other guy's Michael Jordan. It's the two.
You know how hard it was for Michael Jordan to get that stature? He had to actually work for it. All right, coming up next, we have a quarterback battle. One quarterback battle left to settle. We'll do it.
You're in a 5-minute break.
Broncos was ready to go. Had his outfit all set with a flow. But Maggie and Perloff, they had other plans. Chatting with Kevin Butler, the best kicking man. But where's Peter Bellotti? Nowhere in sight. Supposed to be working, but it's another flight. Always gone, never here, what's the deal? Peter's vanishing act, it's getting too real. Butler's resuming, clock ticking away. His time cut short, no words to say. But the real mystery that everyone knows is Bellotti's absences, they just grow and grow. But where's Peter Bellotti? Nowhere in sight. Supposed to be working, but it's another flight. Always gone, never here, what's the deal? Peter's vanishing act, it's getting too real. Peter's vanishing act, it's getting too real. Peter too real. Probably he's out on a secret quest, or just taking another day of rest. But one thing's for sure, it's clear to see Peter Bellotti's work ethic, a mystery. But where's Peter Bellotti? Nowhere in sight. Supposed to be working, but it's another flight. Always gone, never here, what's the deal? Peter's vanishing act, it's getting too real. Bowers was fuming, clock ticking away. His time cut short, no words to say. But the real mystery that everyone knows is Bellotti's absences, they just grow and grow. Maybe he's out on a secret quest, or just taking another day of rest. But one thing's for sure, it's clear to see Peter Bellotti's work ethic, a mystery. Peter's vanishing act, it's getting too real. So Andrew Bowers waits once again, while Peter Bellotti's off, who knows when. But one thing's certain that we all can't see, Bellotti's work schedule, it's a comedy. Peter's vanishing act, it's getting too real.
1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff Show. There's nothing I love more than this class of rookie quarterbacks, except my children. But these 6 guys who are all first rounders are going to be amazing. The one guy I was worried about that would need a lot of time is in New England. I thought Drake May, he was at North Carolina. He's a little raw, work on his footwork. We don't know if the arm will translate. 2 preseason games, I'm all in. I was ready to see him go and play, but apparently, Maggie, that's not exactly what seems to be happening in Foxborough.
Listen, we're just getting used to Jerod Mayo as a head coach, so there's been a little flip-flopping going on, or not flip-flopping, maybe just some indirect messaging happening. We are very far from the Bill Belichick days of basically like, I'll tell you when I want to tell you when anything's going on with the Patriots. So here's kind of the TikTok of it. Obviously, the last preseason game, Jacoby Brissett got hurt. So he hurts his shoulder, but after the game, Jerod Mayo said he could have come back in if it was a regular season game. Then it was a little bit back and forth about whether Drake May was actually number 2 on the depth chart. Like, if Jacoby Brissett was hurt and couldn't play week 1, is Drake May playing? Is he the guy? Okay. Then we get to Monday morning, and Jerod Mayo's now saying that Drake May outplayed Jacoby Brissett. And Manny, I think we have a clip from Jerod Mayo on WEEI talking about this.
I will say is that this is a true competition. It wasn't fluff or anything like that. It's a true competition, and I would say at this current point, Drake has outplayed Jacoby. Now I'm saying that we have to take in the full body of work, going all the way back to the spring and the beginning of training camp, and we'll see where we end up.
I mean, spring and beginning of training camp, I don't know what that matters. If he's outplayed him and we're here on the doorstep of the season, I feel like that's actually what would matter the most. If I were a Patriots fan, that's what I'd be looking at. And I think what this screams to me, Pearl, is that Jerod Mayo as a first-year head coach is not making this decision on his own.
Why
and
that?
I think that if he wanted to start Drake May, I think they would have said, I want to start Drake May. Or, he said there's a lot of factors that go into it, and I think that is a little bit of coach speak of there's a few different opinions, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, I'm just saying this is very different from Bill. There's going to be a few different opinions that weigh into this decision. Again, this is not a bad thing. It's just definitely a difference between the old regime and this one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what Bill would do in this situation because the reason is obvious. I mean, I'll tell you exactly why I don't know what's actually going to happen, but why they'd be tempted. I mean, Jacoby Brissett, unfortunately for him, is going to be cannon fodder. They start the season at Cincinnati, whose defense seems pretty nasty. That pass rush is going to be killer. Then a little break at Seattle versus Seattle at home. Then at the Jets defense and at the Niners defense. Do you really want Drake May to start off his career with those first 4 games? I don't think so. Maggie, I was thinking about when I used to follow Case around and go to all his camps and stuff. He was at the Rams. Case Keenum, the veteran NFL quarterback. He was at the Rams, and he was starting Jeff Fisher's last year in L.A., and he was starting, and I went over and watched Jared Goff, and I was like, oh, my God, the ball comes out of his hand like, honestly, it should be registered with the Defense Department. It's coming out like a missile. How is Case Keenum going to hold that guy off? But it had nothing to do with who was a better quarterback at the time. They really wanted to keep Goff off the field so he didn't get just annihilated in week 1. It turned out he got annihilated in week 9, and they, I think, won like 3 games that year, whatever. But the point, there is a reason to hold Drake May back that you're right. I agree with you. I think maybe the GM said do that, but I even think it was probably easy to convince Jerod Mayo to do that because just look at the schedule. I even if Drake May did outperform him, there's a compelling reason not to play him. It sounds like you probably agree with that to some extent.
This is where I think the business side of football also comes in, because I wonder if you are part of the crafts or whatever, you just sat through a 4-win season with Belichick. Do you really want to throw Jacoby Brissett out there, or do you want to fully turn the page? Here's our shiny, exciting new toy. Because to be fair, Mac Jones, even though they drafted him in the first round, Mac Jones was like a high floor, low ceiling guy who was never had the tools of Drake May. Drake is exciting. He's got the huge arm. He plays with this like, oh my gosh, this dude could be a problem. Whereas Mac Jones basically came into the league as a game manager and now he's a backup. So I think this is where you get some other people with other competing agendas, maybe even within the same organization, to say, hey, we got to get Drake Maye out there. You would make a great point, though, about the defenses they're going to face. And let's not sleep on that Seattle defense. I mean, they brought over Mike Macdonald. They were bad last year, but the whole reason they hired Mike Macdonald was to make sure that defense gets a lot better. So that could be
that's
a
in New
problem,
England.
too.
I mean, if it's going to get to the point where Seattle is a problem for you, because they have Houston and Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter coming at them in week 6. There's nothing good here. They got another game against the Jets. The whole first half is a nightmare for them, schedule-wise. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of conflicting messages from you. You're saying that Jerod Mayo is not making this decision, but then that the owners might want to play Drake Maye.
Yeah.
But it seems like Mayo is saying, hey, Drake Maye's playing better, but someone here is telling me to play Brissett. So how do you imagine this is all working out?
I bet that if Jerod Mayo had his way, I bet he wants to start Brissett, and I think that the business side people want to start Drake Maye. And I think that's where the internal sort of tension is that I would imagine exists even to a slight degree in New England. Now listen, they've built up so much good faith over the fan base and the organization winning all those Super Bowls. Maybe they feel like, all right, well, we're going to do whatever we want to do and everyone will trust us no matter what. But I imagine that's what the conflict is. And you and I have talked about this. I'm starting Drake Maye. Like if it's fully my decision, if I'm the czar of the Patriots and I'm the final decision maker, I'm starting Drake Maye out there. I know the offensive line isn't amazing, but I think Drake Maye has shown that he actually can protect himself out there, and that's the only thing that I would be worried about. His confidence and all that stuff. You're going to be a bad team. Like, what are we talking about? The confidence. Like, as long as everyone knows, listen, the expectation is not playoffs this year. The expectation is not we're going to win 10 games. Go out there and learn. If you can protect yourself, I think that you can throw him out week 1.
Then why, if Jerod Mayo wants to play Brissett, then why did he just go out there in front of the mic and say that he's getting outplayed by my rookie?
Because I think, well, we all have eyes, so I think maybe it just had to, maybe say what is actually happening. But I also think he may be getting some pressure from the front office or from the ownership or whoever to say, listen, we really want to put the young, exciting guy in the stands. It's the only thing to watch this year with the Patriots. Like, if you're a Patriots fan, what is bringing your butt to the stadium besides Drake Maye?
Well, I totally understand what you're saying, but Jerod Mayo is having some confusing messaging.
No kidding. Because I think he's getting a lot of different voices in his ears. That's my whole point.
I think if he really wants to play Brissett, he shouldn't come out there and say the rookie's outperforming him. By the way, the rookie obviously had a lot of center-quarterback exchange problems, and somebody is not organizing that offense. Maybe it's the offense. There were backups to his preseason. So we'll see. I really like Jerod Mayo. I listen to him in every interview. He just sounds like a great guy. I mean, I think that was his reputation as a player. This guy's going to be a coach. This is a hard spot, Maggie. I feel like, man, this might be the least desirable NFL head coaching position in the entire league.
Taking over for Belichick, I mean, it comes with a lot of pressure, no doubt. But, I like Jerod Mayo too, but I think that he's had some bumps here. He came out before the draft, so we're definitely taking a quarterback. And then they had to entertain maybe trade offers from the Giants and other people to see whether they would even trade out of that pick. I think that was a little bit of a stumble. They got through it, obviously. And I think that you're right. The messaging is not clear. It's either is Brissett the starter or is Drake Maye outplaying him? We got two totally different messages, and it wasn't even 24 hours. It was 12 hours later, and we're getting a flip-flop. So I think this is part of the growing pains of it, and luckily for the Patriots, no one's really expecting much this year except for the development of Drake Maye. And that should be Jerod Mayo's number one focus, because if we've learned this with other coaches, whether you're defensive side of the ball or not, once you draft a quarterback in the top 10, it is your only job now is develop this guy. And that has to be the focus, or else you're not going to be the coach for very long.
Yeah, and if he wants to develop him, keep him on the bench until week 8.
Is that what you think? I thought you said throw him out there and start him. I thought you were with me on this one.
No, I mean, honestly, I just pulled up the schedule again. At least week 5. At least let him get to the injury-plagued Miami Dolphins. I do not want to see him Cincinnati, at New York Jets, at Niners. Even if I'm Drake Maye's agent, I'm calling the Crafts right now and saying, hey, Drake has this really bad ingrown toenail. Can we wait till week 5? I'm faking an injury. Yeah, what's the point? This is an impossible situation. Unfortunately, Jacoby Brissett, by the way, we don't know that
Are you sure he's going to make it?
Yeah, I don't know. But is Bailey Zappi still on the roster? Just bring out somebody else. I definitely get the logic of sitting him. I know what you're saying.
This is best laid plans, though, because Jacoby Brissett already has a shoulder. He could get hurt in the first quarter against the Bengals, and then Drake May's going in anyway.
Well, it reminds me a little. Justin Herbert was not supposed to play. Then the medical staff of the Chargers injured Tyrod Taylor with a shot. So maybe, and by the way, that's who Drake May reminds me of. Obviously, I think you're going to get a lot. I've heard other comps, but dude, he looks like Justin Herbert. Tall, cannon, can run. So it's exciting. So I'm going to be on the record. I would sit him till week 5 when they are home against Miami. Why would you make a young quarterback go to the Jets and Niners, Maggie? Why would you do that? That's just cruel.
Jacoby Brissett might be in a body bag by then. I mean, I hate to say it. I know he signed up for this, but this is not going to be easy for him, and he's starting now with the shoulder injury. My bigger point here with the Patriots is, you mentioned it. We'll talk about it. Belichick and moving on from him. It's just a lot more complicated when you had a guy like that who was running every facet of the organization and gave no information, stonewalled the media, didn't care whether he came off badly to ownership, didn't feel beholden to anybody in the organization besides himself, maybe his assistant coaches. Yeah, and I think that now it's different. Jerod Mayo is now just kind of like any other coach who has to play the politics game a little bit more and is trying to figure out his way through this whole thing. And now people who wanted to have a say over the last 20 years but couldn't because Belichick would just give them the dead fish look, now everyone wants to get their opinion out, and he's got to take that into account. And so, the Patriots used to have this sort of mystique and this sort of, boogeyman aspect to them because of Belichick and Brady. And I just think that's now completely evaporated. They're just like every other team going through every other trial and tribulation of moving on from big players and big cornerstones of the organization. And to think they're going to pull this off seamlessly and pass the baton is, what are the odds of that? Very, very slim. Very slim.
Yeah, it's day by day.
Yeah, I mean, all that is nice, but the problem is Bill Belichick left no talent, and the receiving core is terrible. Honestly, the Patriots' new regime has gotten off to an amazing start because Drake May is exceeding expectations. It's amazing. Everyone's talking about Caleb Williams being a no-brainer. He's looked amazing. Jaden Daniels is the biggest hit of the preseason. Turns out the number 3 pick should have been the number 3 pick. In fact, I wonder even if there's a redraft if people look at him at 2. I mean, he's looked great. So I understand what you're saying. That all sounds good, but man, they are really in a good spot with Drake May. That was a little lucky to sit there at number 3 and get Drake May. So I'm not quite as down on the situation. I do think I agree with you, going to have some growing pains. I don't really care what he says to the mic because most of the coaches lie anyway. We'll see. This is going to be fun to watch. I'm dying to know. I still don't. I was just Googling it out. I don't know who's starting week 1. Is he's saying Brissett, then he's saying May. It's going to be really fun. But you know what? They're not going to win any of these games anyway. All right, coming up next, Maggie, we have a fun exercise, which I think we are going to have very, very different opinions. I can already tell we're just headed in totally different directions. From the second we talked about this on the pre-production meeting, I immediately knew, I'm like, Maggie and I are going to approach this NFL assignment in a completely different way. That's, I think, what makes our show great. So that's coming up next. You can pick sides. Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining.
Andrew Bruce was perked on top of this game, but Maggie and Perloff played a different name. Caught up with Kevin Butler, the kicker of lore. But where was Peter Bellotti? He's out the door. Peter Bellotti, where could he be? Off on an adventure, sipping iced tea. Never at his desk, always on the run. Work's a suggestion, not something he's done. Bush is tired, he's done with the show. But Peter Bellotti's got places to go. Is he on a beach or out for a cruise? Peter's always missing, it's old news. Peter Bellotti, where could he be? Off on an adventure, sipping iced tea. Never at his desk, always on the run. Work's a suggestion, not something he's done. Hiking up in the hills, or just avoiding those office thrills. But when it's time to work, don't even try. Peter's on a break, just waving goodbye. Peter Bellotti, where could he be? Off on an adventure, sipping iced tea. Never at his desk, always on the run. Work's a suggestion, not something he's done. He's hiking up in the hills, or just avoiding those office thrills. But when it's time to work, don't even try. Peter's on a break, just waving goodbye. Peter's on a break, just waving goodbye. No! So Andrew's waiting, the update's delayed, while Peter's off on his endless parade. But one thing's for sure, it's easy to see. Peter Bellotti's work ethic, it's absentee.
FOB for Do Bellotti, what could he be? Off on an adventure, or sipping iced tea. Never at his desk, always on the run. Work's a suggestion, not something he's done.
1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Back on Maggie and Perloff. Okay. We are going to do an interesting NFL experiment. I think we talk a lot about quarterbacks, Maggie. But, you know, there are a bunch of other guys on the field. And I think it's about time we rank those suckers. What do you say?
I love it. Okay, so we're going to try to do the top 5. Each of us have our own different top 5 most impactful non-quarterbacks for this upcoming NFL season.
Absolutely. Okay, so non-quarterbacks, and you say impactful, not necessarily the best, but the guys who are really going to make the difference at the end of the season. All right, so how are we going to do this? We're going to alternate? What do you say, Mag?
I think we do just our 1 5, then the other 5. And let's just put all our cards on the table.
Okay, I guarantee there's going to be a lot of differences. You think we're going to have similarities? I took a different approach to this, so I do not think we're going to have some of the same names, but definitely not all 5. Why don't you go first?
Okay, I am happy to go first. I feel very confident in the top 5 most impactful non-quarterbacks heading into this NFL season. Number 5, Perloff, you know him well. He's Cam Jurgens. He's the new center for the Philadelphia Eagles. If the Eagles want to get back on track, the tush push has got to be a part of the game plan. They did it with Jason Kelce for a couple years and Jalen Hurts. Cam Jurgens, number 5, most impactful non-QBs.
He's the third most impactful, maybe fourth most impactful lineman on that team. But go ahead.
I didn't go with Lane Johnson. He's not part of the tush push. Okay. Number 4, bit of a homer pick by me, but I'm going to stand by it. James Cook, running back, Buffalo Bills. You guys see him in the closet here broadcasting today because unfortunately I got COVID. But if something were to happen to Josh Allen, if James Cook can actually step up and be that running back that a lot of people believe he could be, I think the Bills could actually steady the ship. And he's the only one who can do that. It's not any of the other wide receivers. So I thought about Jonathan Taylor there, but I ended up with the homer pick of James Cook. We're doing top 5 most impactful non-QBs going into this NFL season. Number 3, an oldie but a goodie, it's Travis Kelce. You know, we can talk about the brilliance of Mahomes and this wide receiver by committee. If there's no Kelce, there's no Super Bowl. He is the security blanket to end all security blanket. He's a security blanket who's maybe the greatest tight end of all time. Kelce deserves to be on this list. The second most important non-quarterback heading into this season is Pittsburgh Steelers pass rusher TJ Watt. The record of the Steelers without TJ Watt now 1-11, Pearl. This is just the facts tell the story. You don't have TJ Watt on the field. You don't have a prayer. And then my number 1 most impactful non-quarterback for the NFL season, the guy who's currently holding out for your San Francisco 49ers, Trent Williams, number 1, without a doubt. Pay this man, get him back in the building. 49ers have so much pressure to win the Super Bowl. They can't do it without Trent Williams. I don't think they can win a game without Trent Williams. He's got to be out there. My top 5 list, Cam Jurgens, center for the Eagles, James Cook of the Buffalo Bills, Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs, TJ Watt, and Trent Williams, number 1.
Okay. That was weird. James Cook, come on, Maggie. He might not even be the most impactful Cook. Let's see what happens with his brother. I mean, this is nuts. All right, but we do have some common threads which annoy me. I thought I was like, oh, you started off with Cam Jurgens and James Cook. I'm like, okay, we're going to be way different here. Unfortunately, we do have some similarities. I'm not going to lie to you. Okay, my number 5 is actually Trent Williams.
5?
Well, yeah,
Disrespect.
because I mean, look, Brock Purdy's looked terrible in the preseason, I think, because of Trent Williams not being there. But Debo is also super important to that team, too. When they went on this mini losing streak, it seemed like they missed Debo just as much as Trent Williams. So I'm going number 5. Okay. Number 4, I have a Chief, but it's not Travis Kelce. It is Chris Jones, who is a reincarnation of Aaron Donald. Chiefs won with defense last year. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, Travis Kelce was awesome, but at a certain point, Travis Kelce has to decline. It's just science, Maggie. And Chris Jones has a couple more years. Nobody other than Donald gets that kind of pressure from a middle spot when he does line up in the middle. I mean, honestly, he is the defense. He's incredible. So he's my number 4. Number 3 is a little guy, little Tasmanian devil who might line up on the end, might line up at linebacker in Dallas. I'm just putting Micah Parsons as number 3. There's no science here. He is just he's the most amazing defensive player. You can work around him, but that means that it makes it easier for the rest of the Dallas defenders. I'm actually a little surprised. I thought you might have put Parsons on there. Okay, my number 2 is TJ Watt. I had that 1-11 stat. I said 1-10 because I wasn't counting playoffs. But it is amazing. Without him there, the only reason I didn't have him number 1 is even when TJ Watt's out there, I don't think the Steelers are a Super Bowl threat. So is he really making that much of an impact? We're talking about the difference between possibly a wild card game and a divisional game. So I'm not going with that one. The one that I think we're going to disagree about the most, where's Nick Bosa on your list? I mean, you saw the Super Bowl. Nick Bosa is a one-man defense. Everybody was, where's Bosa? Where's Bosa? When he was out, the Niners were terrible. When he got hurt early in the season, the entire season fell apart. He is the most important defensive player because this is tough. Because I also left Myles Garrett off this list. I wanted to put him on there. I think Bosa is just a slight cut above every other pass rusher in the league, and he takes so much attention. I don't know how many more years he could keep this up playing like this. I assume he's going to decline at a certain point, but man, is he huge for the Niners. So I actually have 2 Niners on that list. Okay, so we obviously have T.J. Watt and Trent Williams to comment. Who are some of your near misses? I'm curious, Maggie, because I had a couple.
Yeah, so we'll tweet out our lists at Maggie and Pearl on X. We can put them out on social so you guys can take a look at who are both top 5 most impactful non-QBs going into this season. My also receiving votes that did not make it in, Kenneth Walker of the Seattle Seahawks. I thought he's gonna be a big deal. I think
Maggie,
that yes.
Why do you think running backs get paid $4 million a year?
And
they're generic.
No, but what do teams rely on most at the end of the season when you're trying to make a playoff push when the weather's bad? It's all about the running backs. And then I had Jonathan Taylor because I still don't know about Anthony Richardson. And I think there's a world where Jonathan Taylor could actually carry the Colts. So I had 2 other running backs for my also receiving votes.
I can't. Don't tweet that out. What are you talking about, Maggie? It's 2024. How could you have running backs? I mean, Kenneth Walker might be the second best running back on his own team. What are we doing here? I can't believe you're going running back because you were with me. Don't pay running backs. Don't draft running backs. I've heard you say it. You know the drill. You know how modern football works. And then you're putting Kenneth Walker, the 4th, on this list?
Yeah, I am. I mean, listen, I'm not taking any of these guys number 1 overall in the draft. That's a very different topic. You're asking me who could carry a team and who could a team lean on and rely on, especially we're talking about impact here. So we're talking about teams I think that we expect a little something from, you know?
Here's the thing, though. Running games are determined by play calling and the offensive line. If the offensive line has a giant hole, there are 40 guys who can run through that hole. That's why you can bring out any rookie into the NFL and he can be good immediately. And also, if the defense is way back because they're worried about the passing game, that means the running back's going to get 6 yards. It's not the running back. It's everything around him. It's the ultimate system position. That's why they're the least impactful.
I have 2 offensive linemen also on my list.
Where are the pass rushers? How could you not put Micah Parsons on there?
I put TJ Watt. Here's the thing about Micah Parsons. He is awesome. He and Bosa are both great. And Myles Garrett is the reigning defensive player of the year. I get it. My whole thing about Micah Parsons, though, and I love him, and I think he's great. If you have a 2 touchdown lead on the Cowboys, he's out of the game.
Oh, I'm sorry. And James Cook's going to bring you back from a 2 touchdown deficit?
I mean, maybe. I was saying if Josh Allen something happens to him. You know, if it's Mitchell Trubisky who has to walk in, then James Cook becomes the most important person on the offense, and it's not even close. And so, to me, that is why I went with the list I did. We're going to tweet them out, as we said, so you guys can go agree and disagree, and let's get into it.
I had Sauce Gardner a little bit because a shutdown cornerback means that you could put one guy and shut down a really good receiver, and you can use the other personnel, kind of like Darrelle Revis for the Jets. He's obviously a great player. And Penny Sewell, because I think I'm not an expert on offensive line play, but it does seem to be this narrative that Penny Sewell might be the best tackle in football for what he does. We'll see. And I know they paid him. This is a fun list. Sorry, I didn't mean to get overly emotional, but you're putting running backs on here. And trust me, I want to draft Ken Walker the 4th on my team, but Charbonnet's pretty darn good too. It's funny to me. Was there any other Bills you considered? Is there a defensive guy, an injured guy, maybe Matt Milano?
Matt Milano, if he was, if the impact's already gone away.
Miller. I noticed you didn't mention Von Miller.
No, I'm not expecting much from him.
That's fun though.
You had no Eagles on your list.
No, because the Eagles are kind of spread. Like, it's not even easy to pick the Eagles guy. Obviously, Lane Johnson, without him, they struggle. Jordan Mailata is their great left tackle. A.J. Brown seems to be the heart and soul of the team. And here's the issue, Maggie. Who's the defensive player on the Eagles? I don't know, which makes me nervous. I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to pick them to win the division for that very reason we just talked about.
There you go. All right, the most impactful non-quarterbacks heading into the season is Bogusz standing by?
Yeah, Andrew Bogusz headlines.
What, me already?
Yeah, who won that list?
Where's Raul Allegre or Scott Norwood? No more former kickers to talk to?
Bogusz, who won that list there? What do you think?
Oh,
it's got to be a winner and there's got to be a loser. That's how this works.
She can't see me, right?
Aw. Trent Williams, number 1, guys. Number 1.
Trent Williams is 100 years old. I had him 5. So
you lost me on James Cook.
James Cook, right? Well, but we can. I mean, look, she's in her man cave here in New Jersey. Sorry for calling America. Yeah. And all of a sudden, every day of this week, more Bills merch is arriving in the Gray household. What is going on there? Like, it started out with there's maybe a little Buffalo thing. Now I feel like I'm in Orchard Park.
No, I also have my Rally Pimp shirt. Also here as part of the locker room sort of theme that I'm going with.
Yeah, that's a trend that lasted about 3.5 minutes. Yeah, so, okay. All right, Bogusz, do headlines so we don't have to argue about running back.
I have noticed it feels like one of those games where it's like you have the pictures side by side and you need to circle the things that are different. I was going to ask.
I love that game.
I was going to ask last hour. There was one solitary thing in the cube over Maggie's right shoulder, and I couldn't figure out what it was, and now it's gone, which makes me think that it was like an embarrassing thing, and Maggie realized it and put it away.
You are freaking CSI.
I know.
I'll tell you what it is. Hold on one sec. Okay. It did look embarrassing. It's actually the wheels that like go on the bottom of this thing, and I just thought it looked kind of odd, so I took them out. Bogusz, what? Are you like a New York City detective in a former life? Do you do this to your family too? It's like, hey, did somebody move that vase 6 inches? Like, what? You're so observant. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, but honestly, it's because the way I'm looking at you right now, I only see half of your screen because of my computer. So right dead center of my field of vision was that thing in the cube, so I couldn't not see it. And it looked to me like one of those what
did you think it was?
It looked like a massager, like back scratcher kind of thing. The thing that's like it's got like 2 or 3 balls on it. You like roll around like a muscle thing. So, but that makes sense because it's wheels for the shells.
Yes. Did you think I had some kind of like weird toy in there or something? Yes. Or wheels.
Don't look at me, please. Yeah. Some kind of massaging thing. Let's pour one out for Jarrett Stidham this morning. One of the losers in the Broncos QB competition.
Obviously, I was very disappointed. I know I'm a starting quarterback in this league. I have zero doubts about that. And, it just didn't shake out my way. But I know what kind of player I am, kind of person I am. And like I said earlier, I'll be ready to go if I need to be. And like I said, I have no doubts that I'm a starting caliber quarterback in this league.
Except now at least 2 teams don't share that thought that he's a starting caliber quarterback. We're going to 3.
I think that's a better thing to say than to come out and say, you know what, I belong on the bench. Like I think
got this one right.
I think Jared kind of nailed that answer. In print, that might look sort of petty, but yeah, I mean, I understand he's going with Bo Nix, and he should. Bo Nix is better. Honestly, any coach who plays me is out of their mind. Is that what you want, Bogusz?
No. It's basically what Zach Wilson said, by the way.
By the way, Zach Wilson is the renaissance of the NFL right now. It's crazy how good that guy looked. But I think, isn't that your job as a quarterback to say, I should have started? I know it's a fine line because you don't want to rip the current starter. I think he handled that okay. Anyone?
He did.
I didn't like it. Because to me, the only thing is if you were going out there and you were lighting it up, you were throwing 2 or 3 touchdowns, if you made it look almost without a doubt that you should have been the starter, that's one thing to say, come here and say, hey, I think I got a raw deal, or I should be starting. I mean, this guy was very forgettable in these preseason games. To sit there and stay with your chest, I'm a starting quarterback, and I'm very disappointed. It's like he got beat up by a rookie, dog. Like, come on. Give me a break.
Jerry Stidham played fine, by the way. He had 7 drives, and he got 100 first downs. I don't know what you're doing.
How many touchdowns he scored, bro?
It's preseason, dude. I mean, what are you talking about?
He got outplayed by a rookie.
What are you talking about?
Pearl, he got outplayed by a rookie. You're telling me that you're okay with him saying I'm a starting quarterback when you know he got outplayed by Bo Nix?
Why on earth are you mad? Oh my God!
I'm mad about this because he's talking like it was some injustice. Like it was like somehow like, oh, how dare they pick this guy ahead of me when he was, first of all, he's been a journeyman in the NFL. He did not play great this postseason, this preseason rather. The last preseason game, everyone was like, wow, man, Bo Nix, he really salted that one away. You're supposed to be the veteran. Come on, I don't want to hear about this.
EJ, you heard things that he didn't say. I mean, he didn't rip anybody else. He said, I'm disappointed. I think I'm a starter. Like Perloff said, that's
he said, I know I'm a starting quarterback in this league.
Yeah, but like Perloff said, that's what he's supposed to say. He can't go, yeah, I suck. Why am I even on the roster in the first place? Like I can tell you right now, like, here's my insanity. Like, I think if you drop me into a broadcast booth of Game 7 of the World Series, the Super Bowl, I do a really good job. Fox, CBS, ESPN, ABC, they all disagree. But I still think that, and I should think that.
No, but you know what difference is, Bogish? You didn't go out there and they say, hey, Bogish, why don't you do the ALCS? Let's see how you do. And then you do an okay job. They give someone else the NLCS who's a rookie. They do a great job. And then you sit there and you don't get the job and say, hey, you know what? I know I'm a World Series announcer. You wouldn't say that because you would look at your own performance and say, you know what? Like, I didn't do enough. You may not go out there and say, oh, I think I'm a scrub, but you would probably say, hey, like, I'm just going to work harder. Like, I know what I want, and I'm just going to get after it. To sit there and say, I'm
for Cam Thomas.
I think the moral of the story here is that every play-by-play broadcaster for every sport should check the brakes on their car before they get in, because it looks like Bogish could be on some kind of sabotage mission, and we know you have the skills. You know, the observation
skills. Took you too long to find that word, Maggie.
Sorry, the observation. I'm not doing Monday Night Football. The observation skills to somehow pull this off.
By the way, I think, Bogish, you forgot there's several new emerging sort of social media and computer companies that also rejected you.
That's not true. Amazon Prime.
Yes.
All levels of CBS broadcasting.
I think MLB just sold to to a new startup. I mean, there's about 400 different channels airing MLBs. They're so greedy. They don't care that nobody knows where their games are.
Even the bankrupt ones won't talk to me.
Yeah.
Have you checked with the Saudis?
So wait, Amazon did Amazon just pull out of base? I can't even keep track of that idiotic story with Bally Sports. Amazon just pulled out yesterday, right?
Yeah, they decided to not give money to keep Bally Sports alive.
And actually, it was funny when Bezos said it was. And I want to make one thing clear: Andrew Bogish will not work in my.
No matter who owns this.
Yes.
They beamed him in from outer space or wherever he is just to say.
I was the deal breaker. Turner wanted to use me on NBA games, but Amazon didn't, so that's why the NBA picked them.
Okay. By the way, this whole, I can't believe we just had that much energy talking about a Jarrett Stidham conversation. I like Jarrett Stidham. I think he's cool, but no one on earth cares if he starts or doesn't start, which is actually underscores your point, EJ, that this was such a no-brainer that Bo Nix is 27 years old and looked amazing. It's nothing against Jarrett. Jarrett Stidham could have played well, and I think it wouldn't have mattered because Bo Nix was so ready to go.
In fact, if he would have came out and said, hey, I was at disadvantage because the guy was older than me, maybe then I would have had a little more respect for him, maybe you should have talked about Bo Nix's age.
Caitlin Clark had 19.7 rebounds, 7 assists last night in the Fever's 84-79 win in front of 17,608 fans in Atlanta. But things could have been much different with Clark rolling her left ankle in the first quarter.
I look really soft. It wasn't that bad of a turn, but it hurt. So sometimes you just need a second to give yourself a second. If you ever sprain your ankle, it just kind of stings for a little bit. So I was good. They're like, you want to go in the back? I'm like, no, please just tape right here. Let's go. We got to keep going. Get on with the game.
Indiana now has 14 wins, their most since 2016.
That's going to hurt a little bit when she cools off. Have you guys ever had an injury like that in the moment? You're like, I'm okay. Then 6 hours later, it's the worst.
Also, you got a big game coming up on Friday with I think the last regular season game between the Fever and Chicago Sky. So is this the last Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese matchup that we get? I believe is this Friday, right? Double check me on that, but big game coming up. I know the ticket sales is it's $200, I think, just to get in the door.
The Boston Red Sox lost twice yesterday to the Blue Jays, 4-1 and 7-3. That first game, a suspended game from late June. Boston's now 14 and 22 since the All-Star break, 5 games behind the Twins for the last wildcard spot.
Are you going to do the funny fact about that game?
No, you can.
I need the details, but did some guy play on both teams in this game?
So Danny Jansen was the Blue Jays catcher 2 months ago. He was at the plate when the delay started. In between then and now, got traded to Boston. So yesterday the game resumed with the Blue Jays pinch hitting for him because he was the Red Sox catcher in the resumed game. First player ever to play for both teams in the same game.
Well, how the turntables have.
But, guys, hasn't baseball been around since 1839 or something? You're telling me no guys ever switched teams back in the olden days?
But in the same game.
I don't know.
Guys have done it between games of a doubleheader, but it's never been done. I mean, it's almost impossible to be done in the same game.
I guess so, but I feel like
Kevin Butler basically said that happened to Jim McMahon in the preseason, right? Wasn't that basically his story?
I felt like
they said go over to the San Diego locker room.
Totally. I feel like Cap Anson or somebody like that.
Billy Keeler,
Billy LaJoy, or somebody who had a nickname that you didn't know if it was a name. Like back then, like
Slapstick Jones.
Yeah. The catchers didn't even have face masks on back then.
They were sharing gloves.
Yeah, they didn't even have gloves. They just caught with their bare hands and hit with a branch.
Last thing from me, guys. The U.S. Open began with a bang yesterday. Single-day record crowd of 74,641 people. That included a night session record of 31,775. They all saw Novak Djokovic cruise through his opening match with Radu Albit. Americans Coco Gauff, Ben Shelton, Francis Tiafoe among the winners as well. But Sloane Stephens lost in 3 sets last night at Arthur Ashe Stadium. Today's schedule has both one seeds playing on that main court during the day. Iga Swiatek, then Jannik Sinner, Carlos Alcaraz, and Jessica Pegula headline the night session.
Watching Sloane Stephens melt down in that match last night was just heartbreaking. There's something about certain sports when an athlete just loses it, like golf. This happens with Rory McIlroy several times, but definitely with Sloane. I mean, you're up in that third set, and then all of a sudden you can't get a first serve in. She's spraying balls all over the place. It was painful to watch her lose that match. And then I thought the funny story about the nightcap with Novak Djokovic is, taking on this guy as a challenger. He's 35 years old. This is the moment of his career. And Djokovic said this guy, Radu, actually had beaten both of his younger brothers, who are also professional tennis players. So this was him avenging this for his family last night.
Maggie, you missed a deep dive too. Coco Gauff beat Varvara Gracheva.
Yeah.
Did you know that Varvara was a translation of Barbara? Did anyone know that? She's a Russian-born French player. I guess in Eastern Europe, Barbara is Varvara. So there you go. Did not know that, I'll bet.
Thank you, Pearl.
Yeah.
Wow.
Bogus said it was Italian. Bogus said it was Italian.
No, you said it was Italian, but she
you
plays
said
for
Italian.
No,
and I said I could
no,
be an Italian name in France, and then it turns out she's from none of those places.
I said I'm pretty sure that Varvara is just Barbara
in
and
Italian.
you said in Italian. You said in Italian. I said no, she plays for France, and now you've thrown Russia in the mix as well.
Well, she's Russian. It turns out she was born in Russia. We found that out, but she plays for France.
Never been in Italy.
She lost.
Right. So we can move on from Varvara.
What happens when I'm not in the studio? How does this devolve?
A lot, clearly.
Bogus and I just argue about everything.
Oh, yesterday was a lot.
What was yesterday?
Well, yesterday you were begging for Aaron Judge support, and you got like 3 different Shohei Ohtani votes, so you almost left the building.
Oh, man.
Everywhere you turn, you got a Shohei fan.
Yes. This building, it's an odd place. The last week in August, it is a weird vibe out there, Maggie. And not having you here, like, this is definitely kind of strange.
I'm still shocked at the results of that poll question, which is who's having the better season, the more impressive season, Aaron Judge or Shohei. Judge destroyed our poll, 74% to 26%. I was surprised it wasn't a little bit closer. And speaking of our Twitter feed, at Maggie and Pearl on X, we do have our most impactful non-quarterbacks ahead of the NFL season. Both of our top 5 lists are up, and I wonder if I'm going to get snowed again. I lost every single poll yesterday by a lot.
Well,
I might be on a downswing.
Be clear, it was Aaron Judge in the poll. It wasn't like Curtis Granderson. It was against Joe Anton. Aaron Judge. All right, we got to take a break.
Yep.
Man, I think it's been a while. We got to talk about Jerry Jones a little more. That's next, Maggie and Perloff Show.
On the case, he's searching through Maggie's closet space. What could be hidden? What's out of sight? But the real mystery, Peter's absence tonight. Where's Peter Bellotti? No one knows. Skipping out on work, that's how it goes. Maggie's closet's got secrets, sure it might. But Peter's gone missing like every night. Found a shoe, a hat in the code, but not a single clue or note. Maggie's got style, but nothing too strange. Yet Peter's disappearing act now that's deranged. Where's Peter Bellotti? No one knows. Skipping out on work, that's how it goes. Maggie's closet's got secrets, sure it might, but Peter's gone missing like every night. Bones found a shoe, a hat and a coat, but not a single clue or note. Maggie's got style, but nothing too strange. Yet Peter's disappearing act, now that's deranged. Where's Peter Bellotti? No one knows. Skipping out on work, that's how it goes. Maggie's closet's got secrets, sure it might, but Peter's gone missing like every night. Maybe Peter's on a wild goose chase, or just avoiding his work with grace. But as Bogus sticks to Maggie's stuff, Peter's absence is more than enough. Where's Peter Bellotti? No one knows. Skipping out on work, that's how it goes. Maggie's closet's got secrets, sure it might, but Peter's gone missing like every night. So Bogus is puzzled, what's left to find, but the bigger mystery's on his mind. Peter Bellotti, where did he go? Detective Bogus, the world wants to know.
Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining.
On top of this game, but Maggie and Perloff played a different name. Caught up with KevinButler, the kicker of lore. But where was Peter Bellotti? He's out the door. Peter Bellotti, where could he be? Off on an adventure, sipping iced tea. Never at his desk, always on the run. Works a suggestion of something he's done. Bush is tired, he's done with the show. But Peter Bellotti's got places to go. Is he on a beach or out for a cruise? Peter's always missing, it's old news. Peter Bellotti, where could he be? Off on an adventure, sipping iced tea. Never at his desk, run. Words a suggestion, not something done.
15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Back on Maggie and Perloff, you know that music. That means it's Cowboy Quickie time. Maggie, to be in this industry, you need to speak fluent Jerry Jones. And I think we have another example of why from yesterday.
Yeah, this was an interview given to Clarence Hill, who's a longtime Cowboys scribe. Jerry says basically saying there's no better person to be GM than him. And he says, I've done it all, so I have an inordinate amount of confidence that if anyone can figure out how to get this bleep done, I can figure out how to get it done. I've been there every which way from Sunday, and I've busted my bleep a bunch. There's nobody living that's out cutting and shooting that can give you a bunch of times they've busted their bleep. So, hell no, there's nobody that could bleeping come in here and do all the contracts and be a GM any better than I can. End quote. Jerry put an exclamation point on that he is the guy to be running the Cowboys from here on out.
Yeah.
I just don't think you get pats on the back for signing CeeDee Lamb and basically giving Lamb everything he wanted. I mean, unless he was hell-bent on topping Justin Jefferson, which I don't even think he was, he got pretty freaking close to Jefferson.
Yeah.
Got a $38 million signing bonus. He got $100 million guaranteed. I don't see how Jerry necessarily won this negotiation.
Well, I think the negotiation ended up exactly where everyone on earth thought it was going to end up. The only downside was it got a little close to the season, so hopefully Lamb doesn't pull a hamstring. But I don't even really think Jerry's running this team. I'm being totally honest. Like, I think he has a role, but can you imagine him doing all this on his own? Because that deal actually did end up pretty much where it was supposed to end up. Are you sure Jerry did all the work? I don't know. If you know any older people in your life who talk a big game who might not deliver, thinking my grandfather. But the Cowboys do make a lot of smart draft picks. So Jerod Bland got hurt, the cornerback.
Yeah.
They apparently got a 5th-round cornerback named Kalen Carson, who is the star of camp, who looks like he's going to be an instant hit. Like, who is finding these guys? It can't be. You're telling me Jerry's driving around on his bus to college games and being like, oh, man, that Cooper Beebe, he's going to be really good. I think somebody else is shadow running this team.
Well, you're talking about draft picks or those kind of personnel signings.
Yeah,
Jerry's talking about the contracts. Like, I do think
why do you think it's Jerry on the contracts? You don't think there's a contract guy there?
No, there might be, but when he says the buck stops with me, I think he's the one who's deciding, all right, this is who's going to accept the deal, or are we going to filibuster this thing, or are we going to drag this out? I do think that Jerry is still the guy.
He says
he's telling you that.
Yes.
So
he also told me he was going all in this offseason, Maggie. Just because he's telling me something doesn't mean it's necessarily true. And by the way, if Jerry Jones was this good of a GM to go 12-5 3 years in a row, that is kind of impressive. Honestly, I think it's Will McClay. If I had to guess, I'm just reading the tea leaves here. I think he's getting a lot of help. I don't think I just think he is full of bluster when he says, I'm the man, I'm the GM who did this. I just can't buy it.
That's your Cowboy Quickie for today. Listen, obviously, like, you're running a $10 billion business. You need other people. You got to delegate out. But I think that Jerry wants everyone coming back to him for the final say on everything. And he also went on to say how he throws his weight around in the exact same way amongst the other owners. And he'll go into these owners meetings and say, hey, I was around when there was no money. And we had to somehow get money. And I had to go back to Coca-Cola and all these places every month. And I'd ask them for millions of dollars. And these new owners don't have no idea what that's like. I think he really still believes he's the best guy for the job.
I don't know. If Jerry had the final word, then Johnny Manziel would have been their quarterback. All right, coming up, we're going to get into old school, new school. And I think, Maggie, I'm going to beat you in this bowl, too. Oh, I cannot wait. Old school, new school next. Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break.
Hello, American. I, Perloff was a nerd. Ernest was the football star, always being heard. But forget about the past, let's get to Pete, the guy who skips work like it's a track meet. Or is Pendleton? Thought you were the king. But Perloff's the one who's doing his thing. And speaking of kings, let's talk about Pete, who never shows up. His presence is beat. Lottie got a gift, it's called disappearing. When it's time for work, he's nowhere near it. Out sick, on leave, or on a special trip. But showing up on time, he just lets it slip. Or is Pendleton? Thought you were the king. But Perloff's the one who's doing his thing. And speaking of kings, let's talk about Pete, who never shows up. His presence is beat. Lottie's got a gift, it's called disappearing. When it's time for work, he's nowhere near it. Out sick, on leave, or on a special trip. But showing up on time, he just lets it slip. Or is Pendleton? Thought you were the king. But Perloff's the one who's doing his thing. And speaking of kings, let's talk about Pete, who never shows up. His presence is beat. Oh! Clocking in, he might just pass while Perloff's here working, kicking some class. He's the master of the great vanishing act. One day he's here, then he's gone, that's a fact. While Perloff's on the grind, putting in the time, He's MIA like it's some kind of crime. Or is Pendleton? Thought you were the king. But Perloff's the one who's doing his thing. And speaking of kings, let's talk about Pete, who never shows up. His presence is beat. So Ernest, who's just a footnote in Perloff's tale. Lottie, he's the king of the no-show trail. Perloff's still shining day after day, while Lottie's out there always MIA. But Maggie and Perloff, they had other plans. Chatting with Kevin Butler, the best kicking man. But where's Peter Bellotti? Nowhere in sight. Supposed to be working, but it's another flight. Always gone, never here, what's the deal? Peter's vanishing act, it's getting too real. Focus was fuming, clock ticking away. His time cut short, no words to say. But the real mystery that everyone knows is Bellotti's absences, they just don't grow. But where's Peter Bellotti? Nowhere in sight. Supposed to be working, but it's another flight. Always gone, never here, what's the deal? Peter's vanishing act, it's getting too real. Peter's vanishing act, it's getting too real.
In 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, welcome back, Maggie and Perloff Show. Dallas Cowboys give CeeDee Lamb $34 million per year, and I just think it's interesting. That number made nobody on planet Earth blink. That's just what wide receivers get now. It is an era of wide receivers, which I think is the reason we want to do this, our weekly old school versus new school. Let's focus on the pass catchers.
It's Maggie and Perloff's Old School, New School.
All right, Maggie. The issue is wide receivers. Which direction do you want to go? I will cede the floor.
All right, well, first let's let you know a little of what we mean by old school versus new school. The old school wide receivers, it sounded a little like this.
Firing downfield, Swan going after it, covered, and it's Jungle. Swan catches it on a circus catch. The ball bounced into the air. Swan lying on his back, cuts the ball in circus fashion.
Aaron Ball indeed, and it's Jerry Rice. And Jerry Rice works the stumble, scores the 125th touchdown of his career.
Got a man, Largent. Oh, did he drag his feet magnificently. But that was vintage Steve Largent.
And the pass is caught by Moss. Touchdown. He is absolutely amazing.
All right, there's a little of a taste of what the old school guys sounded like. It's Jerry Rice, obviously. You heard Steve Largent in there. So many amazing old school guys who basically how we're breaking this up is receivers who played before they really changed the rules of how much you could, how physical you could get off the line of scrimmage. So here's how some of the new school receivers sound like.
Jump ball, touchdown. Megatron is in for the touchdown. Calvin Johnson.
Just going to throw it deep for Jones. Double coverage. Oh, what a catch! Touchdown! Down the middle. It's Hill in the open. Cuts it upfield. He might be gone. He is.
He's given time. He wants Jefferson. Climbs the ladder. Oh my goodness! Justin Jefferson pulled it in. The catch of his life.
There you go. So the old school, new school today, old school wide receivers versus new. And again, Pearl, I think we're basically delineating this between the old rules and the new rules. Not just when they played, which it obviously plays into this too, but just how different it was for the old school wide receivers to have to navigate defenses versus the new school. And for that reason, I'll take the old school guys because the degree of difficulty of just getting off the line of scrimmage was so much harder back then than it is today. The NFL wants this wide open passing attack, which is fun to watch. But if you want to tell me who were the guys who were really, really had to get after it, be physical, give me the old school guys.
All right. Well, I understand your argument. And yeah, I do give credit to all those guys. I think the big difference is, and it's a little before, like, gloves change the game completely. Now everybody can make one-handed catches. I think you could delineate, actually, if you wanted to. You could go with the rule change, but you could also go when Odell Beckham made that one-handed catch. That changed everything because now basically no young receiver wants to catch with one hand. But there is no doubt that is a position that has remarkably improved. There are probably 30 receivers in the NFL who would have been top 3 throughout the last 30 years. I mean, there's a reason 6 out of 8 highest paid non-quarterbacks are receivers because they're coming up completely differently now. They're all playing 7-on-7 from age 8 on, being able to catch the ball. Not only do you have to catch the ball, you have to catch everything. And you have to catch the ball coming a million miles an hour because the quarterbacks are better and you have more athletic cornerbacks. There are so many. I'm going through this list of who's in the league now. Tyreek Hill obviously would have been the best receiver any era. CeeDee Lamb would have been right there behind Calvin Johnson, Randy Moss, and T.O. A.J. Brown would have been awesome. There's so many guys who are better. Just now, JaMarrChase, like these guys, there's 20 of them. There used to be 1 or 2. You were so top-heavy back in the day with Jerry Rice and Randy Moss. I just think that nowadays it's the spread outness of it. There's just so many good ones. Every year, 5 new first-round wide receivers enter the league. And they're amazing. Look at this year's draft. Marvin Harrison was number 4. There was no Marvin Harrisons coming to the league in 1995. Marvin Harrison is a ridiculous prospect. He runs a 4.4. He's 6'4", and can catch everything. Then he might be the second best receiver in this class. This wasn't even a wide receiver draft, Maggie. It was not considered a great wide receiver draft. Every year, there are incredibly talented players coming in. It's because of the way that football players are developing. Wide receivers today are so much better.
Well, first of all, I'll take Marvin Harrison Sr., who was an incredible wide receiver, and Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he's going to be good, but hasn't done anything yet. And Randy Moss's rookie year, was it 97?
98, right.
98.
Yep.
Amazing. I mean, well, let's not pretend like guys can only come in and have an impact right away now, because the rules have changed, and the rules kind of changed around, what was it, 2005 or so?
Right.
2004.
04, 05, right.
Right. This is where you couldn't start touching guys. And I've actually had the pleasure, not to name drop, but I've had the pleasure of talking to Jerry Rice about this. And he said his numbers, you can't even calculate. And no one's going to catch Jerry Rice. I don't think so. Maybe if they keep adding more games to the schedule. But what his numbers would have been like in this era, you can't even measure it. And the fact of the matter is, I think that just shows you, even if it is a little more top heavy back in that day, if we're going elite versus the elite, then I think the old school guys are not only are just as good, but deserve even more credit, because the game is just so wide open now. You have so many more targets. And, here's the other thing about the wide receivers. Like, are we in this golden era of wide receivers because the pay is so awesome? Perloff, you said it. Wide receivers, the new running back. This is a bubble that's going to burst. And I think this is why you are seeing dudes holding out, holding in, making sure they get their money now. Because I think in 5 years, we're not talking about $35 million for receivers. I think it goes the other way, and we start bringing those salaries down on these wideouts.
By the way, can you give me anyone besides Randy Moss and Jerry Rice? It feels like I'm hearing a lot of Rice and Moss.
Okay.
Rice and Moss. And by the way, Moss.
Chris Carter, Steve Largent. Can I give you Sterling
Steve
Sharp?
Largent would be like I don't mean to be a cliche, but he'd be catching 85 balls for the Patriots right now. What is Steve Largent? CeeDee Lamb.
Largent might be the second or third greatest wide receiver. He's awesome. Steve Largent was amazing.
Steve Largent is a slot guy in today's NFL. There's no doubt.
And what do those guys do? Win Super Bowls.
Okay, you have, let's look at the Eagles have Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, and Jahan Dotson. You think Steve Largent's breaking into that rotation? He's going to catch a few 8-yard balls from Jalen Hurts. He's not even a starter in today's NFL, let alone the greatest receiver. And that's who you're going to go with? And then, by the way, Randy Moss had 23 touchdowns in 2007 after the rule change, so I don't even know about that one. And Jerry Rice was with Bill Walsh and Joe Montana. You put Jerry Rice on another team, and we'll see.
No, absolutely not. I refuse to do the system thing with Jerry.
I'll take Marvin Harrison Jr. over Marvin Harrison Sr. 10 times out of 10. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be a better receiver than Marvin Harrison. I watched Marvin Harrison. Yeah, he was catching the balls from Peyton Manning. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to make quarterbacks awesome the other way around in Indianapolis.
No, I first of all, I have to have Randy Moss because he was drafted in the 90s, so I get him in this. And let's see about Marvin Harrison Jr. Let's see about it. Okay?
Let's see him be awesome is what we're going to see, Maggie.
Okay, that's
I know
fine.
enough about Marvin Harrison Jr. to know that guy's going to be in the Hall of Fame. I'm ready to go.
All right, there you go. I'm giving you great names here, and I don't know why you're denigrating them.
You give me two great names. You give me Moss and Rice.
Chris Carter is not great?
Chris Carter would not be special anymore. He's good, really good. But first of all, his career is pretty up and down. No, Chris Carter wouldn't be super fast and awesome right now. He'd be really, really good. But I don't think he'd be as dominant.
Michael Irvin wouldn't be great.
Irvin be slow.
Lynn Swann wouldn't be great.
Manny had almost as many catches, Manny's dancer, as Lynn Swann. Lynn Swann caught like 64 balls his entire NFL career.
How about Tim Brown, who caught passes from like 22 different quarterbacks and still made it to the Hall of Fame?
I'm not ripping these guys. They're all coming on the show. But, I mean, honestly, you telling me you could have a time machine and you put George Pickens, who's not even top 20, you put him into 1988, people be like, what is this guy all about? Let's throw it to him 100 times a game.
He'd be so worried about his Instagram. I don't know if he'd even make it to the game.
Just throw the ball in the air and he's going to catch it with one hand. I mean, you come
out
on,
of
Maggie.
bounds.
I'm sorry. I love Chris Collinsworth as a broadcaster, but is he going to be a Pro Bowler in today's game? I just don't know.
I didn't have Collinsworth on there, but I'll take the Jerry Rices. I'll take the Randy Mosses, Sterling Sharp before his back injury. Give me Chris Carter. Give me Marvin Harrison Sr. Give me Steve Largent. I'm going to battle with these
Would
guys.
you at least give me physically, the guys you're describing probably do not profile athletically like the guys I'm talking about. Chris Carter, Tim Brown. I mean, we're talking about, you're naming like the who's who of possession receivers. I don't know. The combination of burner and being able to catch was pretty rare back in the day. You had Randy Moss, you had Rice, but not, it felt like back in the day you could either go for possession or you could go long. Now all the receivers can do both.
Well, you couldn't get off the line of scrimmage. How you of course, guys are going to be more possession receivers, and the run game was still more of the focus for a lot of these teams, and so you're getting limited amount of action. I just think that it's the kind of argument too where like you're telling me that I couldn't put any of the guys I named for the old school and put them in today's game, and they wouldn't be able to have the same skill set. Sure hands are sure hands, whether you're a possession receiver or not. Also, since when is being possession receiver a bad thing? Like you're talking like this is, catches only count if you make them with one hand, like Odell Beckham. Like that's just flashy.
That's like setting up a girl because saying setup has a nice personality. Possession receiver is definitely a bad thing. That's the game manager, a wide receiver. This is 2024. You're not going to get a possession receiver. You need a guy who's going to take the top off the defense. Okay. You're making a lot of valid points. And of course, I'm being a bit tongue in cheek. Obviously, Chris Carter would be great today. But you have to admit, wide receivers are definitely faster. There's no way. I mean, look at Xavier Worthy, just ran a 4.2.
Is he going to be good, though? John Ross is?
Yes, probably.
He might be. He might be great. But sometimes the speed doesn't always mean they're going to be awesome.
Wide receivers are faster, taller. I don't know about stronger. And I think they are better catchers now. I honestly think the catch rates are higher. So I think physically, I think they're trained differently. Honestly, I am taking the advantage of training. I just think they're better now. It's a totally different game. Now guys make catches, routine catches that 30 years ago were not routine by any way. And even T.O. would drop a million balls. I love T.O. I think he's one of the great players. I just think guys are better now. They're just better players. And that's also one of the reasons they're getting paid so much. I mean, we're talking about CeeDee Lamb starting off the show. Like, CeeDee Lamb does everything. Everything. He's the entire offense.
But here's the thing. You can take way more chances now if you're a wide receiver quarterback combination throwing down the field because you know you are maybe most likely getting bailed out with a flag too. So it's not just the way that the game's played, but also the way the game's officiated. We're doing old school versus new school, old school wide receivers versus new school wide receivers, just chucking the ball up and, you can't touch anybody anymore. So that ends up becoming a good play that obviously, doesn't add into the stats, but it definitely keeps drives alive. It keeps the offense on the field. All of that changes how, wide receivers look and seem and how important they are to the offense because you're getting a flag if you get breathed on.
I also think, and maybe it's the same kind of argument a bit, but guys are now actually catching footballs in amateur football. Like there were no pass plays until till the guys in Texas. There were no pass plays in high school football until about the year 1995.
Yeah, right.
Now all of a sudden, and there was no 7-on-7. None of those guys you mentioned played 7-on-7. So there was just so many more reps. Like guys are coming to the NFL having caught 1,000 passes. Where I don't have the stats in front of me, but I'll bet you I'll throw it at James Lofton probably caught 32 balls his junior year of college. It's just a different ball game now. So all those reps have made the guys better. Just watch it. It's not even like a guy jumps up and at the top of his jump catches the ball with one hand anywhere. Like it could be Mike Gesicki for God's sake, and nobody even blinks because I'm just saying wide receivers are so good now. We take it for granted. I admit they have a lot of systematic advantages now, but to say that the old school guys, except for the two guys you mentioned, Rice and Moss, except for them, the talent level is at a different stratosphere now.
Curious where the audience goes on this one at 855-212-4227.
Give me the old school running backs, by the way.
We'll do that next week.
There's no argument there. That we can't even do because anybody who takes the new school running backs, I'd rather have a platoon guy than a guy who's going to run for 1,800 yards. But no, I think this is one position I love. We're flipping, Maggie. Usually I'm old school.
Isn't this crazy that the last 2 weeks I've been more about old school coaches and old school wide receivers, and you've been about new school coaching and new school wide receivers? We're doing this role reversal thing, and it's really how we feel. Can I just say, though, I need, like, the big Steve Largent and Jerry Rice fans to come out and help me with this poll at Maggie and Pearl on X, because when I tell you I'm getting snowed, I'd love to blame it on the fact that I'm in the home studio, tested positive for COVID, so now I'm going to be in New Jersey for the rest of the week. I'm getting snowed on these polls. I don't know how I'm losing these badly.
Yeah, you just said Kenneth Walker is the fourth most impactful non-quarterback in the league. I don't know how you're losing these either.
He wasn't also receiving votes. He didn't make it on the list. James Cook did.
It was James Cook. Sorry.
Yes.
That's even crazier. Actually, Kenneth Walker I put above James Cook. You have Josh Allen at quarterback. What the? Anyway. All right, Maggie, I feel like I'm picking on you because the COVID fog is affecting your list-making ability.
I think I'm making salient points here. And the biggest one was, too, that I got really snowed on yesterday. I lost in a landslide. Is the name Ernest a tough guy name? How did I lose that poll by so much? And would you rather, which situation is worth to be months at the International Space Station or stuck in an elevator for hours? This one wasn't that bad. I only lost 55% to 45%, but still.
Wow. Which one was worse?
I said it'd be worse to be stuck in the elevator. At least in the International Space Station, like I'm trained for this. I've got entertainment, I've got food, I've got bathrooms, I've got air conditioning. I'm living a life in the International Space Station. I'm stuck in an elevator like the Chargers were for 2.5 hours with 12 people, no air conditioning. Guys were taking their shirts off because they're dripping with sweat. That is not a way to live.
I had to live through that take yesterday, so I do not want to go back to that. You were so excited about what life is like on the International Space Station, which was actually interesting to me. You're like, yeah, they have DirecTV. I can watch the new season of Emily in Paris. All right, we need to take a break. You can weigh in 855-212-4227. Which are better, old school wide receivers, the tough guys who had to battle off the line, or new school wide receivers, the thrillingly fast guys who catch everything? Give us a call, weigh in, maybe defend Maggie on the polls, vote at Maggie and Pearl. Or you can vote for me like you did yesterday. All that and much more right here on the Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break.
Ayaba. Ayamaya Layaba. Ayamaya Layaba. Ayamaya Layaba. Ayamaya Layaba.
And he played a different game. Now he's on the radio with his nerdy charm. And Ernest is just a memory, no cause for alarm. Oh, Ernest Pendleton, king of the school. You thought you were tough, but who's the real fool?
microphone while Ernest's in shock. Life's a funny thing, the tables sure do turn. And now it's Perloff's victory while Ernest munches yarn. Oh, Ernest Pendleton, king of the school. You thought you were tough, but who's the real fool? Perloff's on the airwaves making people laugh, while you're just a tale from lower Berrion's past. But hold up, let's talk of Peter Bellotti. Always MIA like he's got a secret hobby. He says he'll show up, but where's he been? Taking more days off than anyone's seen. And Bellotti's the king of the no-show game, skipping out on work like it's his claim to fame. Perloff's here daily doing his thing, while Bellotti's out there living like a king. So what is your history? Bellotti's a ghost, but Perloff's on top and he's bragging the most. The bully's in the past and the slacker's gone, but Perloff's still here and he's singing this song.
One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff. Old school versus new school wide receivers. Maggie has old school wide receivers. Jerry Rice. She didn't even really go old school. You could have gone with Fred Biletnikoff. Don Hudson. That guy put up huge numbers in Green Bay back in the day. I
thought about going with the all 1930s team, but I thought you'd be able to poke holes in that one pretty quickly.
Peter King always says Don Hudson's the greatest receiver ever. I've heard that argument a million times. But you could weigh in yourself, 855-212-4227. Let's go to Andy in Wichita. Andy, you going old school or new school at wide receiver?
It's old school, Perloff. You are so off here.
What?
I mean, you just said Irving was too slow. What was his 40 time compared to CeeDee Lamb's? They both ran 4.5s.
Did Irving run a 4.5? I'm surprised by that.
Yeah.
At the combine, you have an official. Like, was that like Gil Brandt with his stopwatch, or was that actually computer timed?
Hey, that's a Google number, just for record, okay?
I got 4.52 for Michael Irvin on the old Google machine.
And CeeDee Lamb was 4.51.
CeeDee Lamb's much bigger than Michael Irvin.
No, he's not. They're both 6'2", 200 pounds.
CeeDee Lamb's only 6'2". He looks taller.
Pearl. Yeah.
Could you imagine what these old guys would do coming across the middle, not worried about getting their heads ripped off?
Yeah, that's another part. That's a great point.
There's no way.
You can't draw flags for getting, breathed on 40 yards down the field, which the guys can now. And it's a great point. Going over the middle used to be something that took guts, lots of guts. Now, I'm not saying guys aren't tough today, but it's just a totally different calculus. You could get decapitated out there.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to Google a little bit here. Michael Irvin might have said he ran a 4.52 and 6'2", but that was back before they had cameras. Okay. I'm not sure about these measurables. I've been around Michael Irvin, and I've seen CeeDee Lamb in person. You're telling me those guys are the same size? I am not totally believing it.
Okay, but here's the thing. This is the thing about Perloff. He won't believe the combine runs from back in the day, and he doesn't believe them now because you think the inside track makes them faster. You question every combine time of the current guys. So if you're going to just throw out the times then.
Well, I mean, I watch football. Obviously, the receivers are faster today than when I was a kid. I mean, except for like the speedsters like Henry Eller, like, yeah, it was just physically, they just don't look the same. I'm sorry, they're bigger, stronger, taller, faster.
Well, maybe not taller.
Well, some of them are really tall. There wasn't like Harold Carmichael when I was a kid was like a freak. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's 6'7". He's the tallest receiver in the history of the planet. I just think physically, Steve Largent, you said Steve Largent. Steve Largent is the same size as Andrew Bogus, who's sitting next to me on the left.
Listen, I think a lot of guys now, the bigger guys, just put on weight, become a tight end. So...
I don't know. I look at Marvin Harrison. I mean, wow. And by the way, the shorter guys are just physical phenoms. Malik Neighbors, I can't believe that guy. That guy is crazy big. They're also A.J. Brown is gigantic. I mean, he's not tall. I just think physically they're way better. And all football players are. To be fair, Maggie, on your side, like obviously football is a much bigger, stronger, faster sport than it was in 1990. It's just the reality of the situation. All right, Bogus, headlines. What do you got?
It feels like you're yelling at me.
Yes, because you're not backing me enough on this one.
James, I'm not even listening. James Cook's importance to the Bills grew this morning with the team releasing backup QB Ben DiNucci so that Josh Allen's safety net is even thinner right now. Meanwhile, older brother Dalvin scheduled to work out for the Cowboys later today. He did next to nothing for the Jets last season, but Dalvin has since had shoulder surgery, is fully recovered from that, and apparently feeling as well as he has in years.
You guys see the pictures of Dalvin Cook, by the way?
I saw a video of him throwing a medicine ball against the wall.
He looks like a action figure. What is happening?
Yeah.
Unless he's always looked like that. I've never seen him shirtless. He looks so muscular. For what it's worth, I don't know if that's going to mean anything.
I mean, it was an impressive workout video.
Yeah. I mean, it looked like Perloff and getting after it back in the gym in the days.
I was going to say, did you like, man, he stole my workout routine again. Sheesh, Dalvin.
Is that what Ernest Pendleton looks like in your nightmares right now?
Ernest Pendleton was built like that. He was crazy. He looked a lot like that with his shirt off. Yeah, imagine that guy hitting you in the shoulder. Although Dalvin Cook's pretty short. I think I could take Dalvin Cook.
You can't.
The reach is an issue for you? For
Dalvin Cook? I don't know. I saw running backs don't scare me. They're very tiny. I saw Le'Veon Bell in the boxing ring. He wasn't too tough.
I saw Thomas Jones in person once, and I could not fathom him angrily running at me.
No, Thomas Jones, that's a guy you stay away from. That whole team, wasn't he with David Boston?
Yeah, it's true.
We should mention Ernest Pendleton was Perloff's high school bully. So people are wondering, who are we talking about?
No. Tom Kyer was my ultimate high school bully. You say Tom Kyer to anyone who grew up in suburban Philly in the late 80s, early 90s, and like fear will just come across their face.
Who was he, Biff?
He was two Biffs together in one. Actually, was probably a nice guy, but he was so scary. It was like a movie. You ever seen? It's a little like 3 O'Clock High, where there was a bully, I think Buddy Revell or something. Anyway, it was like
Revell?
every movie bully in one person. Sorry,
your voice is cracking.
Yeah,
he's still scared.
Maggie, is there any chance that either one of these guys is as physically imposing as Perloff says they are?
We often have a guest on the show named Ani Bose, who runs the schedule for the NFL. Mm-hmm. We'll have Ani on to confirm. Yes, Ernest Pendleton looked like Dalvin Cook. He was totally jacked. Wait, why are you not believing that?
Can we get Ani on tomorrow? Like, I want to corroborate this.
I have to see if Ani can come on right now. What is it? I assume the NFL, maybe he's getting his last vacation. It's August 27th. I'm going to text him right now. Okay, go ahead, Bogus.
All right. Niners left tackle Trent Williams will reportedly continue his holdout until his contract is adjusted. And the NFLPA has vetoed a proposed change to the emergency quarterback rule. Owners wanted teams to be able to call up a third QB from the practice squad every week, but the union thinks that would allow teams to hide players on that practice squad, saving money. So the setup remained like this. Teams can have an emergency third QB who does not count towards the 48-player game day roster as long as he's on the 53-man active roster. The difference between the veteran's minimum salary on that full roster And the practice squad is at least hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that's what the union is preventing the teams from saving. And then we get to high school football, which began last week all around the country, I believe. Last Thursday was the Santa Ana Bowl between Mater Dei and Corona Centennial, and this was the PA announcer.
Turn around. Yeah. Pass intended for number 11, Tyler George. Incomplete. Penalty markers down. Turn around, you dumb. Read his eyes.
Oof.
I don't know why I'm calling a 16-year-old a dumb. It's kind of redundant. Maybe it's more hat. That was it.
So all the negative stuff wasn't over the PA system, but it was on the live stream of the game, which had over 1,000 viewers at that moment. So there were a handful of social media posts about this dude ripping a 16-year-old defensive back in high school football.
Oh my gosh. Wait, so what did make it over the PA? Did any of the curse words make it, or just the live stream?
No, he was at least smart enough to turn his mic off. So the crowd only heard pass incomplete, flag on the play. The press box and the live stream heard everything else. The turnaround, you bleep. I shouldn't call him a bleep. It's more like this bleep. That was internet only.
The redundant. That is a heck of a thing to say. Also, Mater Dei is a very famous program, right? A lot of USC quarterbacks came out of there. Yeah, right.
All I know is Peter Schwartz, our official PA announcer, would never, ever do something like that.
Way more buttoned up, way more professional. Peter Schwartz, only positive, would never say something like that.
Probably not.
I don't think.
This has got to be this guy's last PA announcement game, right? I mean, I know I'm not usually in the business of just firing everybody, but high school kids, calling them dumb A's. I mean, I don't know. It just feels like this is probably the line, I feel like.
Also, isn't a volunteer position most likely? I mean, I can't imagine this guy's,
Yeah, maybe he's getting like $50 to cover like gas and a meal, but that's about it.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Listen, as somebody, we all talk into microphones for a living. Hot mics are definitely a real work hazard for all of us here, so we should be a little bit more empathetic, but it's high school kids.
Oof. And I thought for a second he realized his mistake, but no, he was just choosing a better curse word for the 16-year-old kid.
An A-hat.
Right.
Wait, what's that, Manny? You think Bogus's update is terrible? Yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah, I'll try and make a move. Oh, am I on? I'm sorry.
That was hilarious.
You
got me.
No, I'm kidding. This update is perfectly adequate.
Perloff's the best actor we have.
Mean PA number 2, played by Andrew Perloff.
By the way, I'm more likely but not to have my hot mic on because I barely get my on button on in time to speak most of the time. But like a hot mic,
you have the opposite problem. You're the co-host of the show with your mic off all the time. The other part, you realize that Andrew Bogusch and Jake Bogusch should team up together to find Ernest Pendleton and the other guy you just named.
Tom Kyer. I'm taking notes.
Tom Kyer. Perloff's 2 high school bullies. The next time that you talk about Jake's Little League team or Bogusch's updates, I just want Ernest Pendleton and Tom Kyer to walk in with the Stone Cold music, just the breaking glass, just to start punching Perloff in the arm over and over again.
Oh, Maggie, imagine doing the show. You're on one side, Pearl's on the other, and Ernest is in between you guys, just waiting to have to punch Perloff in the shoulder for something.
No, he destroyed me.
Your arm would be broken.
I wish it was 2 high school bullies, by the way. We could have a Royal Rumble in here with the number of high school bullies. I have about 14 more names that I'm debating whether to share right now.
Where did you go to school?
I just went to the most normal suburban public high school, and we got
sounds like Compton. It sounds like Compton High.
Seriously.
Well, I mean, the bullying, you guys didn't get bullied in high school?
No.
I mean, Kobe Bryant went there. He was probably dishing out some punches, I would imagine. Kobe.
No, I miss Kobe. Kobe was there with my brother. Kobe was the nicest high schooler of all time. I met him many times in high school. He would never bully anyone until he got to the NBA.
But
ask Smush Parker about that.
Basketball players never bullied anyone. in high school. Like, that's not a position. Like, football, it was part of the football team. It's like, hey, I'm a tough football player. I'm going to go punch a skinny nerd freshman.
It's like you were in Dangerous Minds. Was Michelle Pfeiffer ever your teacher?
They were mild bullying. Like, just like, hey, you know what?
I'm just a shank.
Just walking along, I'm going to flick that guy one time and make him double over and drop his books. Not that happened to me 6 times.
Before first period. I think this is a fun question. Like, what not to make light of it, because obviously there's some really serious stuff, but what are the more, like, lighter hazing? Is it the suburban schools or the city schools? Because I think the suburban schools, no one was safe, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I went to a suburban school. EJ, you kind of went, but EJ, did you go to a city school?
Catholic school, though.
You went to a Catholic school.
Yeah, I went to a Catholic school in Queens, but in a more suburban area of Queens. So it's
kind
like
of mandatory bullying there.
Some mix. It's like, that was an interesting experience. Because you had kids from, like, the city, and you had kids from, like, Long Island. So it was like, you know,
what a great
all
combo.
hell broke loose. Yeah, you got a little bit of everything. A big poo-poo platter of bullying.
There was a big fight at I'm not going to get into too many specific here, but at my daughter's middle school, and it made the New York Post, a local paper. And it was apparently people put it on video, and it got out. And I pull up the paper, and I'm like, gosh, that looks like my daughter standing right there. And this is anyway. Lucy's like, oh yeah, I was walking by when that happened. It was no big deal. She wasn't in the fight; it had nothing to do with it. But she was standing right there. Like, now, what happens with bullying is it all goes into TikTok, and that's where Snapchat, and that's where the real bullying happens. Any little thing can get blown up in social. Manny, you're shaking your head. Like, you know, like, social is where we have to worry about, not actual physical beating up anymore.
Well, I mean, it sounds like fighting your bullies seems to be a foreign concept to you guys. I mean, the fighting was pretty often where I went to high school. So, I mean, it's really nothing. Bullying and fighting, standing up for yourself was kind of the norm where I went to school.
We had fights galore. They weren't dangerous, though. That was one thing. Maybe
they weren't dangerous when I went to school there, but since I've graduated, the fights in my school have turned deadly, unfortunately. But I digress.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I also think there's a difference between, like, a couple fights in the parking lot or on the bus, I think is a little different than the hazing. Like, the hazing where it feels a little systemic, or you can get really weird and sad and tragic and all that stuff, as opposed to, like, 2 guys fighting over a girl and they decide to throw a couple punches.
I don't know. So you went to high school in Binghamton, Maggie. Were there some epic fights? I bet you there were.
Yeah, and I remember, like, the lead up all day, like, so-and-so, and they're going to fight, and everyone meet in the parking lot after. It was like something out of, like, a movie. Yeah.
But, I feel like this is nostalgia. It usually ended up being okay. Now it feels a little scary. We are way off track.
You guys should have gone to my nerdy small school where no one was capable of bullying. That was a safe place.
Wait, how big was your graduating class?
Like 120. Because I played club floor hockey at Fordham.
Yeah. So 120. How did you even field sports teams?
There was enough for, like, basketball, baseball, soccer, but nothing bigger than that.
The same 35 dudes just played.
I mean, kinda.
Yeah, because that's like 60 men, 60 boys.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, it was all boys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
Hey, ain't no Ernest Pendleton chasing me in my dreams. So far, so good.
By the way, I hope we're not getting the show sued. I think we need to change the direction of naming out specific people in case I misremembered.
Or they come find you.
All right. Thank you,
ladies and gentlemen.
Bogus.
That's Andrew Perloff saying all that.
DM me for current address.
No one else has named any names.
All right. You know who's not a bully? Jared Jones. We got to get back into the Cowboys next with a guest who knows Jerry better than anyone. It's Calvin Watkins from Dallas Morning News. That's next right here, Maggie and Perloff.
Hello, American. I, Perloff, was a nerd. Ernest was the football star, always being heard. But forget about the past, let's get to Pete, the guy who skips work like it's a track meet. Ernest Pendleton, thought you were the king, but Perloff's the one who's doing his thing. This weekend of kings, let's talk about Pete, who never shows up, his presence is beat. Lottie's got a gift, it's called disappearing. When it's time for work, he's nowhere near it. Out sick, on leave, or on a special trip, but showing up on time, he just lets it slip. Or his the great vanishing act. One day he's here, then he's gone, that's a fact. Well, Perloff's on the grind, putting in the time. A lot he's MIA like it's some kind of crime. I word is Pendleton, thought you were the king, but Perloff's the one who's doing his thing. And speaking of kings, let's talk about Pete, who never shows up. His presence is beat. So Ernest is just a footnote in Perloff's tale. Bellotti, he's the king of the no-show trail. Perloff's still shining day after day, while Bellotti's out there always MIA.
One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Ethos Life, the easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam and just a few health questions. Get your free quote at checkethos.com. Not available in all states. All right, big news today. Dallas Cowboys extend receiver CeeDee Lamb. There's so much going on in Dallas. We want to talk to somebody who is inside, covers the Dallas Cowboys for Dallas News. Of course, Calvin Watkins. Calvin, you wrote that this is a good deal. At least that's how I perceived it. It's a good deal for the Cowboys, the way they handled the CeeDee Lamb. Like it kind of had to go this way. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That is correct. They need a CeeDee Lamb. He's their best offensive weapon, and you don't let talented people hang out like this, hang out to dry. You got to pay him. You got to take care of him. He's an elite receiver. You could debate if he's better than Jefferson or Chase or Tyreek Hill. You know, we could have that debate. Take us 6 hours to finish that debate. But he's in the conversation, and so you got to pay him.
You know, Calvin, I think the Cowboys might want to take some victory laps about getting this done before the season starts, but why couldn't this have happened earlier? Why couldn't they have gotten this done before JaMarrChase signed his contract or before Tyreek Hill got a raise or anything that may have impacted the number?
I think the biggest thing they were looking at was Justin Jefferson of the Vikings.
Yeah, I meant Jefferson, sorry.
No. Okay. Yeah, no, you're right. Once Jefferson got his deal done in June, then you knew what the market was for the top end, right? This is $35 million a year on average salary. So it's all a matter of just giving CD what he wants. right, in a sense. And CD has told the team, I don't want more than Jefferson. I don't want to be the highest paid non-quarterback. So knowing that, then you should have said, okay, I agree with you 1,000%. They should have got this done sooner. But Jerry Jones pays people when he wants to pay people, and that's why the Cowboys have not won a Super Bowl since 1995 season.
Oh, do you think that's the reason that we're sort of stuck at this level with the Cowboys? Is it something Jerry's doing with the way he's structuring the team?
It's not so much the structure of the team financially, because CeeDee's going to be there week 1 for the Browns. It's just a mindset. You know what CeeDee needs to get him in the building. So give it to him. Why are we playing these games? Like I asked Jerry at training camp, is there a sense of urgency to get CeeDee in here? No. Well, why not? And he said, because. And he couldn't really give us an answer. And then he said, well, he doesn't need to be practicing out here in training camp. I don't want him to get hurt in camp. Okay, well, he can get hurt in week 1 of the regular season. So it's just that mindset that has to change. I don't know if it ever will change with the Cowboys, but this is where they are.
Calvin Watkins joining us, Dallas Morning News, covers the Cowboys, knows this team inside and out. So Jerry is doubling down. I'm sure you saw the interview he gave to Clarence Hill about no one's better to do this than me. I'm the guy. I still feel sharp, and I've got so much institutional knowledge. I'm the one who says when this all goes down. How should Cowboy fans feel about that, Calvin?
Well, Jerry's not going anywhere. I think fans need to accept that. And if any fan thinks that, he needs to go somewhere, well, you're not paying attention. Is he watching game tape? No, he's not watching game tape. Is he involved in the day-to-day operations of the team? No, he's not. That's Stephen Jones and Will McClay. And yes, Jerry does have the title of owner, general manager, but as Jerry likes to point out, every owner in the National Football League has the right to veto anything that's done to their franchise. Why? Because they own the team. So in Jerry's mind, all the owners are GMs because they can stop you from doing anything you want. Why? Because they own the team. And you can say, well, that's a flawed way of thinking. Well, okay, that's fine, but look where the Cowboys are. Jerry's in the Hall of Fame, one of the most valued franchises in North America. They won 3 Super Bowls. So he is doing something right. It's just of late, I would say in the last 20 years, it hasn't worked out for him in terms of getting a championship.
Calvin, what do you expect to happen moving forward with Dak Prescott?
That's a good question. I would think that they would try to get Dak Prescott done in the next 2 weeks, meaning this week and next week. If not, I'm not sure if it will get done, and he might enter offseason as an unrestricted free agent, which is a massive gamble to take with Dak Prescott. But I do believe that they will get the deal done. The first step was to get CeeDee Lamb out the way, and they've done that. So now they have to take care of Dak Prescott. And they're in the same situation as they were in with CeeDee Lamb. You know what the market is at quarterback, right? It's at least $200 million plus total package, whether it's in 4 years or 5 years. So you know what those numbers are. It's $55 million in the average salary at the elite level, in a sense. So pay the man. But if you don't want to pay him, then that's okay. Then let him walk when the season ends. But you just gave an elite receiver big money, so you better have a quarterback to throw him the ball. So I do believe that at some point in the next 2 weeks, they'll sign Dak Prescott.
What do you think is the biggest holdup? Do you think it's money or years? What is prohibiting this Dak Prescott contract? Because you're right, the market's the market. We all see what it is. What do you think is the holdup?
I think part of it was they were trying to get CeeDee done first, so they got that taken care of. And now it's just about, I think Jerry has some trepidation about Dak Prescott. Because as much as they paid CeeDee Lamb and they've already given Dak money before, they haven't won a lot with these guys. They have not won a lot. So I think there's some trepidation there because you're saying, I'm gonna pay Dak $200 million. I'm paying CeeDee $38 million in signing bonus. I'm giving him $34 million in average salary. And then Micah Parsons is going to come to the table. He's going to get a big money contract. But you haven't won anything with them. So I think there's some trepidation with Jerry in regards to Dak. But in terms of the holdup, I think it was getting CeeDee Lamb first, and now it's about just coming to terms with Dak. Dak, the first time he got the contract, was a 4-year deal. So I'm wondering if Dak wants a 5-year deal so he could say, I'll finish my career with the Cowboys.
Calvin, what's the level of optimism in Dallas? I know the win total dipped a little bit coming into this season. Are people expecting big things this year?
This is one of the first times in a while, and I've been covering the team for 15 years, where the fans have really been frustrated with Jerry and the direction. Last year, a lot of fans thought they would go to the Super Bowl, and there was a lot of expectations. This year, things have been tempered. I think fans are like, okay, we get to the playoffs, but what are you going to do there? You know, so there's a lot of here we go again kind of feeling around the team. The attendance was down at Cowboys training camp this summer. There wasn't a lot of buzz around the team, you know, and from me being around it as long as I've been. So I think the fans are a little frustrated. Some apathy has fallen around the organization a little bit from the fan standpoint. So I think the fans are like, get to the playoffs, but you better do something. If not, it's the same old, same old. And I think this is the first time that the front office, meaning Jerry and Stephen Jones, are acknowledging fans' frustration.
Calvin Watkins is joining us. He covers the Dallas Cowboys for the Dallas Morning News, does a great job. So Perloff and I had this argument earlier today, Calvin. It was about, you know, how much of the some of the things with the Cowboys are self-inflicted, right? And how much is the media just, you know, covering the Cowboys and being so infatuated with the Cowboys because the fan base is so spread out. But to me, going into the season with your quarterback and your head coach and the final year of their deal, that's like a self-inflicted wound, right? That's something that could have been mitigated. It might be with Dak, but with Mike McCarthy, you could tack on a dummy year just to make this not a story, and the Cowboys are not choosing to do that. Is this going to be something that follows the Cowboys and is a distraction throughout the season?
The Cowboys have done business like this before. Jason Garrett coached in the final year of his deal, and he made the playoffs a couple of years ago. So to Jerry, it's not a big deal. And when you ask Jerry about that and say, why didn't you give Mike that, as you said, that quote-unquote phantom extension, Jerry says Green Bay, meaning Mike McCarthy could have had his extension and he had lost to Green Bay last year in the playoffs. So this is on Mike McCarthy. So you want your extension, you want to get paid again, get us to the NFC Championship game, get us to the Super Bowl. And I'm okay with that. You know, it is what it is. You know, Mike was won the Super Bowl. He came in. He was touted to be something different from Jason Garrett. So, and you've won 12 games the last 3 seasons, but it don't mean anything because the ultimate goal is to get to the final game of the NFL season, and that's something he has not been able to do. So, while some would say, well, why would you want a lame duck coach? Players are lame duck every year, so why not the coaches?
Calvin, we're out of time. We really appreciate it. Love to talk to you during the season. Always interesting in Dallas. Thank you so much for the time.
You guys stay out of trouble. Thank you.
That's Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News. Wow. There's just a lot going on in Dallas, as always. All right, coming up, The Athletic has their annual quarterback rankings. Maggie, I think it's fair to say there's a surprising snub for the top tier. We're going to dive into that with The Athletic's Mike Sando. I know, Maggie, you weren't happy with this ranking. We'll see how Mike explains it. That's next, right here on Maggie and Perloff. And also, we'll find out where Jalen Hurts is. That's the most important issue. Coming up next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Hi, welcome back, Maggie and Perloff Show. Perloff here in the New York studio, Maggie in the home studio. A lot of interesting Cowboy talk. I love what Dallas Morning News' Calvin Watkins said. Hey, they just paid a wide receiver. Got to have a quarterback to throw him the ball. Makes me optimistic, Maggie. We have a big show bet looming about whether the Cowboys re-sign Dak Prescott. Could be a lot of Waffle House food for the loser, which sounds like a good thing, but I'm talking about a lot of food. Maggie, I don't know. Did Calvin sort of hinted that it could be happening before the season? Could be happening, which would be awesome because that would mean you'd be eating 24 waffles in less than 24 hours.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Yes, I'm nervous now. We made a bet about Dak Prescott and whether or not he'll be on the Cowboys next year, and I could potentially lose that bet before we even get to September, which would be sad for me. The bet is thus. Whoever loses has to sit at a Waffle House for 24 hours, and for every waffle they eat, 1 hour gets lopped off the time. Now, this is a send up to a fantasy football draft, like a group of guys doing fantasy football, and that was the punishment for the loser. And we're borrowing liberally from those guys. Mike Sando is our guest from The Athletic. He's got his quarterback tiers, but Mike, what do you think? Dak Prescott on the Cowboys next year? Who's winning this bet? Who's eating these waffles?
I can tell you one thing. In my day, I might only be there about 2 hours in my day. Now, I don't think I would be eating waffles that fast, okay? In college, they used to make us divvy up the pizza when it arrived because this guy would just inhale the whole thing. So I have a storied, embarrassing past of eating. But I think Dak Prescott probably wants to be on the Cowboys and probably will be on the Cowboys long term. But I'm not sure when the deal is going to get done. It feels like Jerry Jones, certainly with Mike McCarthy, letting him go in his last year, and then the quarterback kind of being the next closest thing to the coach in terms of, hey, are we ever going to break through, right? And then you look at Dak's position. He's worked hard to get into a situation where he's set for life, and he also cannot be franchise tagged. So he has a lot of leverage here, not just to try to, hey, get the biggest, hugest deal and from the Cowboys, but that's a good position just to be in. I think if he were to get to the market, there would be a big market for him. Now, at the end of the day, does he want to be the Cowboys quarterback? I would think so. I don't think Dak Prescott's just about the money. I think he would like to stay there, probably. But there's enough variables that, like, I wouldn't fault either one of them if they said, hey, look, we both like each other. We want to be here, but we're both evaluating some things. Let's see how the season goes. I think that would be fun.
So in your quarterback tiers, of course, you talk to executives and people around the league. What's a league-wide view of Dak Prescott? How's he fit into this list?
Dak Prescott is like an airplane that goes at 36,000 feet forever. I mean, he's been a tier 2 quarterback. He might be, like when Dak came into the league and I was getting quarterback tiers going, kind of the Staffords and Matt Ryans were your classic tier 2 guys. In any 1 year, if they got with the right coach or whatever, they could be like the MVP. They could put up MVP type numbers, but they weren't quite, at that time Brady or Breeze or the really super top guys. And that's kind of where Dak is now. He is the Matt Ryan, right, of his era, who is always going to be good. I mean, he plays almost all the games. He's going to have a chance to go to the Pro Bowl. I think one of the comments in my piece was he can roll out of bed and throw for 450 yards. But he hasn't had that success at the end of the year and has faltered even in some of those situations. And so I think that has stopped him from going higher in the tiers. But we've seen what he does has great value. The top 2 guys in tier 3, Tua Tagovailoa and Trevor Lawrence, they're in tier 3. Just got like 53 and 55 million.
It's crazy. We'll talk about the salaries in a moment, but at the top of the tiers, you have 3. And again, this is executives, this is coaches, this is front office personnel, this is analytic types. You really do a wide swath here, but this is not players. So this is the tier 1, according to the insider executives, is Patrick Mahomes, is Joe Burrow, and Josh Allen. That's it. Only those 3. I found it interesting that when the players were surveyed for the NFL Network Top 100, Lamar Jackson was the first quarterback in that ranking. He was 2nd overall in the league. How do you account for that much of a variable where the players think that he's the best, but the executives say he's the top of tier 2?
Well, there was only 3 in tier 1 this year. Usually there has been more, but he's the 4th quarterback in the whole thing, and he has, I think he's 2 or 3 votes away from getting into tier 1. So he's right there. I think what has held him back and really confounded the voters is that when one of the key components of being in tier one is when our team has to pass the ball, what does it look like? Who's more afraid, us or them? And I think that when he has gotten into those situations, typically he doesn't because they play great team ball. They're a top 5 defense usually. They're a top 5 special teams. They're rarely in a trailing situation where they have to put it on the quarterback's back and the run game isn't part of it. So that has hurt him sometimes, and I think it's one of the reasons he's 2-4 in the playoffs. I think his playoff passer rating is about 75, and we saw what it looked like against Kansas City. That being said, a lot of the voters said, you know what? I kind of want to throw it, he's so good, I want to set aside that pure pass component, which is a little nuanced, but I think it is a differentiator. I think the quarterback position at its hardest is we know you're going to pass the ball right now in a critical situation. Are you great at it? And so, you know, you could debate either way because about half the voters put Lamar in tier one anyway. And some of the comments in there reveal that, hey, I don't care. I'm putting him in tier one anyway. So I think it's nice though that he's a top 5 quarterback. It's not like he's behind some of these other guys. It's just a nice position to me to still differentiate what the tiers are, but he's still a top 4 quarterback in the league. Easy.
All right, Mike. Lamar Jackson's easy compared to one player. What are the differing opinions on 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy?
Well, I think everybody thinks Brock Purdy is good. It's just the division of credit there is a harder one for the 49ers because if we were to go to Pro Football Reference and pull up like the all-time pass leaders in, you know, yards per attempt and some of these other things, like Jimmy Garoppolo would be super high, right? Because it's a very efficient offense. But yet we know from the eye test, and the market will tell us, you know, Jimmy Garoppolo is not Dan Marino or you know, an all-time great quarterback, and yet they're able to produce those numbers. However, at a certain point, if you play consistently well, even in a great system with great people around you, you're going to get some credit. So Brock Purdy's getting that. I mean, he has one full season as a starter, and he's already up into tier 2. So I feel like that's a good spot for him. And if he were to keep doing it, he's just going to rise up higher. Now, do people feel like he can carry the team the way Josh Allen can? You know, probably not. And some of his draft pedigree probably he has to overcome, right? You come in, there's a reason you're a 7th-round pick or whatever. It's not like people would drop the ideal quarterback of all time and say, or look at Brock Purdy and go, that's what it looks like, right? They wouldn't do that. So it may take a little bit of time, and we'll see how high he can go, but he's on a great path.
Mike Sando is joining us. He's a writer for The Athletic, and every year does his quarterback tiers. Exhaustive. You're talking to all these decision makers in the league, executives, GMs, coaches, analytic people, staffers on every single level, and sort of get a composite of who belongs on tiers 1, 2, 3, 4. And there is a tier 5, but I don't think anyone really fell into that one. Rookies don't count, by the way. We haven't seen them play yet. For Mike, for the players who dropped into different tiers, and there were a couple, and they were some were pretty precipitous. Which fan base should be the most concerned about their quarterback dropping down a tier or 2?
Oh, I think it's really a big year in Jacksonville. I don't think people question Trevor Lawrence's talent, but something's been a little bit of a miss there, right? You have the Super Bowl winning offensive coach, yet there's been some ambiguity over who is or should be calling the plays. They fired their defensive staff last year, but I think everybody's looking at the offense. Was it just Trevor Lawrence having a few injuries after they started 8-3? Maybe. I think long term he's going to be good. But wait a minute. When he came into the league, I thought people were talking about generational talent, and he's one of these rare guys. I don't think we've seen that. So are they a situation where, like, if you look at the top of tier 3, from Tua, Lawrence, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, a lot of hopes and dreams and money were put into those guys. And so is Trevor Lawrence going to rise out of that and be up there with the Herberts and the Staffords and some of these other guys? Or is he now going to be an expensive tier 3 guy, you know, like some of these others?
Mike, one quarterback you know very well is Russell Wilson. We've been talking a lot about the Wilson Fields battle in Pittsburgh. From what you found out doing this story, who gives you more of an upside if you're the Steelers? Is it Russell Wilson or is it Justin Fields?
Well, definitely the upside of the talent is Fields. I think what made Russell Wilson special for a lot of his career was he he not only had a really good feel for the game, but he was athletic. And so he could break the rules, right? You would never teach your quarterback when the pass rush is coming to turn his back to it and look over this shoulder while he's running and then spin out the other way. Like, you can't teach that. And now that Russell Wilson he's older, he can't do that as well. He's really lost the knockout punch, right? He's always taken too many sacks and some of that thing, but you didn't care because he was going to roll out and throw the ball 40 yards down the field or scramble for 20 yards and make these incredible plays. As his athleticism has waned, what you're left with is just a little bit more of hopefully like a game manager type of player. Throws a great deep ball, but he's sort of going to manage the offense. That may appeal to a team like Pittsburgh because they've been good on defense. They just may need a quarterback who isn't bad, right? Now with Fields, you're going to get the super highs and lows. The upside's higher, but he can also, he probably obviously isn't as experienced or just isn't able to probably manage an offense or hasn't done that as well as Russell Wilson has. So I think that's the choice for them. And ideally, Russell Wilson would play pretty well. They would be able to win and develop Justin Fields in an offense that's new for him with a coordinator who would seem to fit him. And then maybe as we get later in the year, they can make a decision, or maybe next year they feel good about him being part of it. Because I think people, when I talk, there's enough people that feel like there's something there to be salvaged with Justin Fields. That's where the upside would be, even if like right now today, there's maybe a little more downside too.
But Mike, I keep telling Maggie, we're arguing about this all summer. Russell Wilson had all those deep passes through the years. It feels like he's the guy to throw the deep ball to George Pickens to me. Isn't he one of the more effective deep passers in NFL history? But is that no longer a thing?
No, I think he still can throw the deep ball. In fact, I've talked to people that have seen him practice this summer. It's like, hey, he's still got the deep ball. So I think he can throw the deep ball. That may be something that never leaves him. I think I made a boxing analogy earlier. It's like a puncher, like George Foreman today would like knock you. George Foreman won the heavyweight title at age 42 when he was totally overweight because the punch never leaves you. And I think the deep ball, some of these quarterbacks, like if we got Warren Moon and Dan Marino out there, I bet they could drop a deep ball still. So I think that won't necessarily leave Russell Wilson.
Gosh, a Russell Wilson George Foreman comparison. I don't think I've ever heard that one, but that's great. That's why we love.
I got the boxing stuff here. We got Ali over here. I got a little bit of a background,
Yeah, I love your background. If you can't see on TV, you got some Chuck Noll, some Lombardi. Is there a strategy here, Mike? What's the book strategy here? A lot of great coaches.
Yeah. It's just a mix of some sports books with some iconic figures.
Yeah, and your book too, by the way.
Dan Pompei and I wrote a book on the 100 greatest players in history that we had to change. We actually, when we were putting it together, I think we had Jim Brown number one, and then Brady went and won the thing with Tampa, and we were like, all right, okay, he did this. This is ridiculous. So we moved Brady to number one on that book. Had to rewrite it.
Are you going to rewrite it if the Chiefs three-peat? Are you going to dig back into the book?
That was another rewrite. So when we started it, it was too early to put Mahomes in there. Like he had just played a few years. We're like, oh, this guy's going to be in there. But we didn't do it. And we actually put him in there. We actually put him, low somewhere in there in the I can't remember what it was, 90 something. And so, yeah, if we redid it now, the thing about Mahomes, this is what's different about Mahomes. Different from Joe Montana, different from Terry Bradshaw, different from Tom Brady. If you look at his 2019 and 22 Super Bowl teams, they weren't good defensive teams. And it's all these top tier quarterbacks can overcome, bad defense to have a good team. We saw Peyton Manning do that. We saw Aaron Rodgers do that. We saw Drew Brees do that. But it's very hard to win it all without a good defense. If you look at, in the 1980s, the team that allowed the fewest points was the 49ers, stacked on defense, okay? Tom Brady, great defenses. Mahomes had a great defense this last year. I mean, they wouldn't have probably won it, or it would have been harder. But he's got 2 rings overcoming defense, overcoming special teams. It doesn't work that way to win it all. So that's why I think he's really on that track. And if we were to redo that book in a couple of years, the top 100 book that's right there,
yep.
You'd have to start. There's enough of a body of work that we're not talking about being in it. We're talking like, where is he in the top 10? I think he'd start having that type of discussion.
Mike, really appreciate it. Love the quarterback tiers. Anyone who hasn't read it yet, dive in and have it. We'll talk to you during the season, I hope.
I hope so, too. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that.
Yeah, that is really interesting to me. Also, we didn't even get into where Aaron Rodgers goes in there. Still pretty high. This is, Maggie, you say this, if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have an upcoming season. So this is really, to me, you could have this debate about the best quarterbacks. You're really debating the best teams.
Yeah, so Rodgers is in tier 2, dropped down from tier 1. He's nestled in between Justin Herbert and Matthew Stafford, who are tied for 5th, and C.J. Stroud, who's at 8. Stroud just a one spot above Dak Prescott. The other part about this, I was really surprised by this. So tier 3, Mike was talking about, the top of tier 3, these are guys who just all got paid. Tua, Trevor Lawrence, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson. I mean, insane, and Baker Mayfield even got an extension. Really big money for those guys at the top. Bryce Young's in tier 3. Like, how?
That's hot. Yeah.
That season last year was terrible. It might not have been all his fault, but it's never all anyone's fault, unless you're like Nathan Peterman or someone who's not even making this list. I just think that, how did Bryce Young get into tier 3? Obviously, there's still some optimism amongst executives out there that he's going to become a thing.
Yeah, I don't think Nathan Peterman deserved a shot there. It's good, dude. By the way, and even he is better at playing quarterback than anybody listening will be at anything in the rest of their lives.
I know.
That being said, I hear you about Deshaun Watson's funny too. It's just there's so many good quarterbacks right now. I hate to say this because everyone says, "Oh, there's no good quarterbacks anymore." That you can go into 20s and have Super Bowl champions is interesting. All right, coming up next, let's shift our attention to wide receivers. So CeeDee Lamb got paid. Does that mean that finally, Maggie, BrandonAiyuk will get a contract? We'll break it down next. Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Defensive Player of the Week is sponsored by the Navy Federal Credit Union, who proudly serves the armed forces, DoD veterans, and their families. Their members are the mission. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. All right, it's tough, Maggie. Preseason Defensive Player of the Week, pre-football season, that is. You obviously have baseball, WNBA. I don't know what else is going on.
All right.
I have a football choice, but I'll let you go first because I'm a little worried about this one.
Okay, I have two options here for Defensive Player of the Week. I think it's Angel Reese, it could be Angel Reese, who continues to have a great rookie season. I thought actually when Caitlin Clark sprained her ankle last night in the first quarter of the game, I was like, oh man, if Caitlin misses any time, does Angel get back into this Rookie of the Year race? I don't know if it's already wrapped up. So Angel could be there. Here's another one. We talked about, was this Tony Jefferson, who was flying around?
For the Chargers, former.
Making Trey Lance's life just like, was against the Cowboys, right?
Yes. Basically, Trey Lance had 5 interceptions. 2 of them were Superman acts by Tony Jefferson.
It was amazing. But again, it's preseason, so I think EJ went with Angel Reese.
Okay. I got to make sure I have the right guy here. Yes. And I don't even know what he did this week. But the Chicago Bears, according to Hard Knocks, got this draft steal named Austin Booker that they traded up for. And he ripped up your Buffalo Bills. I think he had another good performance.
Yep.
So I know EJ likes Hard Knocks. I like Hard Knocks. We'll see tonight what happens. He's a 5th-round pick out of Kansas who's kind of awesome. I think the Bears got a steal. So I think he's going with Austin Booker, pass rusher, Chicago Bears.
All right, those are your final answers.
Yes.
Okay, so this week's Defensive Player of the Week is Rams safety Tony Jefferson, who had 2 interceptions against the Dallas Cowboys. I picked Tony Jefferson because I love seeing old dudes randomly playing in the preseason. It reminds me of when random NBA veterans find their way onto the summer league. It's like, what the hell is that guy doing there? He's still playing basketball. I saw Tony Jefferson playing. I was like, he's still playing football and playing at a pretty high level. So shout out to Tony Jefferson. I make sure I gave the old guy some love. So he is my Defensive Player of the Week.
He was retired. We also could have put Aaron Judge, who had the big highlight catch last night and then doubling off the player at first. So that
Charger,
was
by
pretty
the
cool.
way. Charger Tony Jefferson. You said
Oh, what did I say? Ramp? Yeah, Chargers.
Yeah, which is
LA,
yeah.
yellow, sorry, head all over.
But it's totally bizarre that Tony Jefferson is a Charger, by the way. I don't understand that. It's the whole thing is really weird. I'm giving Trey Lance a break because, I mean, honestly, you shouldn't be having to throw against Tony Jefferson in the preseason. That's not fair.
This is what happens when you bring basically the entire Ravens staff out with you to be the Chargers, and Tony Jefferson was good with the Ravens, right? So that's the Ravens Chargers like shuttle
And
is
Seahawks,
unprecedented.
too.
And Seahawks, yep, same.
Yeah.
Competing against Jim Harbaugh.
There's definitely like a three-headed Harbaugh monster out there. All right.
I have a question for you about tonight. You mentioned about Hard Knocks. You got Hard Knocks if you're a TV watcher. Hard Knocks, you've got the U.S. Open, and then you've got this Connor Stallions documentary that drops on Netflix tonight, speaking of Michigan, where he tells his side of the story about the sign-stealing scandal. If you could only watch one thing, Pearl, Hard Knocks, sign-stealing scandal, or I guess I'll give you the U.S. Open.
It's definitely the U.S. Open. No, I'm just kidding. Of course it's Hard Knocks. I would go Hard Knocks over anything. I love Hard Knocks. The sign stealing, here's my little concern about the sign stealing is the mystery was out there for us. I'm not sure, is there that much new stuff? We have pictures of him wearing the mustache. Like, I feel like the Connor Stallions thing was covered pretty well. So and I'm not just saying this because I'm cynical about the way documentaries have been lately, but is there a lot of uncovered territory? So I'm going Hard Knocks.
Well, according to some early clips that have been released, Stallions is denying all participation. He's saying he never advanced in-person scouted and didn't purchase tickets for others to attend games. So he's saying no to all this. I thought we had a paper trail that he definitely did some of this stuff. I don't know how he's going to wiggle out of this one.
Yeah, so you can actually, it's available already. You could watch that right now and get it out of the way of your Hard Knocks tennis thing. And the documentary itself plays audio, apparently, of his NCAA investigation where he denies everything. But then in the documentary, he admits to buying tickets for people to go to games. But then he says he accepted the film of the signs as a favor to them. He already knew what the signs were, but he just took the video from his friends and family to be a nice guy, that he didn't actually want it. But there is a paper trail. Like, the other schools have provided the receipts of him buying tickets to their games for other people. Also, so he's a mess.
Refresh my memory. Doesn't a lot of shenanigans happen on the Michigan sidelines that's all on video, right? None of that's hidden. So we're going to get to see it in operation.
And he doesn't, he apparently neither confirms nor denies the Central Michigan story.
Well, that's the whole thing then. You can't you can't say, well, I'm not going to confirm or deny, but I never did advance in-person scouting. It's like, well, was that you on the sideline? Because if it was, then this is all BS.
But we have video. We have footage.
Right.
And the other thing, too, is we have footage of I assume we're going to see some cool footage of the Michigan sideline and what's going on there. I hope that, otherwise, what's the point of this? Actually, I'm changing my vote now that we bring up all these mysteries here. Because this is not like we saw it. We saw Connor Stallions. We saw the signs going back and forth on Michigan. We saw guys at Ohio State shifting around or calling something, then the Michigan sideline going bananas. So I think this is going to be pretty obvious that obviously he did it.
Well, the problem is and other documentaries in this series have had the same problem, like the Manziel one. This is his story.
Oh, kind of like Tim Donaghy. We did the rogue referee. That was
right.
And the Florida Gators. I don't know whose story that was, but it certainly wasn't.
Urban Meyers.
Yeah, it was definitely right. Somebody inside of Florida.
Right.
That's why I'm a little skeptical, Maggie, that they're going to have anything new.
Yeah, this is a certain type of documentary series. I told you guys offline that I just watched the Steve McNair one, which was tragic, obviously, because of what happened to Steve McNair. But I didn't like how they laid out this whole case and exactly what happened with Steve McNair. And at the very end, the last 5 minutes, some other guy with this really good theory basically gets 30 seconds of airtime. And they sort of present it in like the final minutes of the doc. It's like, wait, I want to hear from that guy a little more. He might have something good to say about this tragic, that was a murder-suicide with Steve McNair and a girlfriend that was so sad. And this other dude, a private investigator has a pretty good idea of what he thinks happened, and we don't get that information until like they're about to roll the credits. So, yeah, this Connor Stalions thing, I mean, you can't even call it a documentary if it's just all a bunch of nonsense.
Right, there's nobody from Michigan involved, apparently. Like, there's not anybody on the record, AD, anybody else. There's nobody telling the other side of the story. It's his stuff and some evidence from the NCAA and some evidence from, I guess, like the private investigator that began this whole thing. But even, I was reading it, The Athletic had a pretty thorough breakdown of it this morning. And even that angle of it, of Ohio State apparently hiring somebody to look into this, like even that is not presented to a conclusion. It's just, everything is just kind of laid out there, and you get to decide like what you want to believe and what you don't.
Yeah. Also, by the way, I'm the only idiot in all of America who ruins this awesome episode of Hard Knocks. I think this will be the cut down day because all the cuts go out by tonight. So
it can't be. That'll be next week, I would think, right? They can't do that fast, can they?
Well, I don't know, but I know one of the guys I love has already been placed on the IR. So certain running back out of Howard, I've been following this guy. Yeah, no, it's good. No. He's on injured reserve. I don't even remember him getting hurt. But
this is the guy who's going to be a doctor, but he's like kind of taking this little sidestep into the NFL.
Isn't he incredible? And then he's struggling, can't catch anything in practice, and he goes out in the game and just rips off 2 40-yard touchdowns. I'm all about Ian Wheeler is his name. But by the way, Bogus, I feel like you have enough information on the Stallions thing. You seem skeptical that they're going to get the real story.
I mean, I don't think that we do because he contradicts himself in this, and there's no official other side of the story. And apparently there's no smoking gun, doesn't appear to be anything condemning of Harbaugh in it as well. So it's just, it gives us something, but it's apparently underwhelming, at least from the people who have, I guess, got up at midnight and watched it when it first became available today.
Got it. All right, what else you got? Headlines.
Remember when Tua Tagovailoa called Brian Flores a terrible person, and then Flores said he might reach out to Tua to clear the air? That conversation hasn't happened yet, according to the Miami QB.
I haven't heard from him.
Did you see his comments publicly?
I haven't seen his comments publicly.
Is there anything more that you'd like to add in the conversation to that?
There's nothing more I'd like to add to that.
Sounds like a deposition.
Yeah. Specifically, Tua would not share why he thinks Flores put him in over Ryan Fitzpatrick midway through Tua's rookie season.
It's a great question. I'm not going to answer that truthfully right now, but I think I know why. But I won't speculate or give anyone any speculations on that. Whatever, you want to create to think that.
You guys know better, I think, but I believe the leading assumption is that Flores was told Tua had to play.
Sounds like it, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is smart of him, though. Save something for the documentary. Because everyone knows you're nobody if you don't have a good documentary, as we've been talking about this morning, or save it for the book. But yeah, and this is, kind of goes back to Jerod Mayo, and we're talking about the decision to either start Drake May or start Jacoby Brissett. I don't think it's that cut and dry that just the coach is making these decisions. I think that the front office, I think the ownership definitely gets involved. I think that's what happened in Miami, and I think that's what's happening in New England.
But I'll tell you right now, in Philadelphia, Nick Sirianni's not making any decisions. Everyone on earth knows that. But by the way,
his headset's not even plugged in.
Brian Flores, instead of using the phone, is going to reach out via a 9-man blitz next preseason against Tua. I'll bet you Brian Flores is like, I'm not calling him. I'm going to get him on the field, and I'm going to destroy that Hawaiian quarterback. I think Tua should. Why bring any of this up? What does this have to do with Miami's Week 1 game? Although he was fine, I think his energy was, I'm shutting that down, but he couldn't totally shut it down. There's an expression, when you hold a resentment, it only hurts you, not the person you're resenting. I think Tua's got to get out his little guitar and play some songs and let it go and focus on the season. I don't like him looking backwards. That's not very Tom Brady-esque to look backwards. Flores is gone. You got bigger problems coming up this year.
Although all of those guys like making up motivation, real or not. So if he's out there just trying to prove Brian Flores wrong all the time, and that's what makes him the best Tua, then load up on that fuel.
Yeah, but you don't say that to the media. You hold that for the shop with LeBron, and that's when you reveal what you're really thinking. You don't just let us know in press conferences. And
Dan Le Batard is no LeBron, guys. That's what we know.
You know what? That's a good point.
Same
AJ.
thing.
He was probably trying to impress Le Batard a little bit there, but still, now you got to let it go. And he clearly could not let it go in that press conference. He's like, I know what the real story is. Maybe I'll tell you later on, wink, wink. Like, how about I have a game against the Jaguars in 11 days? What are we talking about here, people?
And speaking of not answering questions, Dabo Swinney is reportedly no longer taking calls on his weekly Clemson football radio show. Instead, fans have to submit questions via email or text ahead of time, of course, allowing the staff to pick out the ones they want Dabo to hear. There was an infamous call last fall with a man asking Swinney if he was worth his $11 million salary with the Tigers at 4-4. So that will not happen moving forward.
How
on this
dare
show.
they deprive us of the call-in show with Dabo Swinney? And what's up with these college football coaches and all that? First, it's Dion, doesn't want to answer questions from the Denver Post. Now Dabo Swinney, you got to submit everything by text message. Come on, guys.
How dare you?
Yeah, but I mean, you just mentioned Dion and Dabo. I don't know if, those are two pretty notorious coaches. I'm not sure. And throw in Lane Kiffin. After that, I think there are a lot of coaches who approach this differently.
That's true. Lane Kiffin is too busy on his crusade against soft drinks, so maybe he can find time to, answer some other questions.
Yeah.
How dare you?
Not one, but two wins for the Royals over the first-place Guardians yesterday.
3-1 pitch. Swing and a high fly ball. Deep left center. That's way back. And that's gone. A grand slam for Salvador Perez. And the Royals lead it 9-4.
That's from Royals Radio. Perez hit a second homer, drove in 6 in the 9-4 win, which followed a 4-3 afternoon victory. So KC's now one game behind Cleveland in the AL Central. Caitlin Clark put up 19 points and 7 assists in the Fever's 84-79 win in Atlanta. And she also tied the WNBA rookie record for threes made.
Shocker.
And finally, Novak Djokovic finished off day one of the U.S. Open with a straight set win over Radu Albed. Coco Gauff and Ben Shelton also won yesterday, but Sloane Stephens ousted in 3 sets. Guys, back to you.
Manny is asking why I said shocker. I mean, basically, Caitlin Clark walked out and threw 3 bounce passes in the first game, and that was a WNBA rookie record. I mean, is there anything that's not a rookie record in the WNBA? Is there any rookie record held? What were people doing in the years before Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese arrived?
I think this is the only place where you and I share a Caitlin Clark thought because you like her getting forearmed and whatnot. It is shocking to me how many single-season rookie records she and Angel Reese are setting, as if there has never before been a good first-year player in this league. They have multiple games left.
We have to pull in EJ because EJ did tell Maggie and I before the season. He's like, keep in mind, it's hard to contribute as a rookie in the WNBA. Before the season, were all rookies terrible, EJ?
Yeah, that's what I kept trying to tell you guys, and she's been fantastic, but the whole thing about her averaging 20 points was the thing we went back and forth on, and she's having these great games, and she's still not going to get to 20 points most likely. It's so hard in this league. I think that, first of all, when you start in the league, the women are already more mature.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about an expansion draft and then a regular draft, so you had women coming in as first-year players who were, in their 30s. So I think it took a long time for this to kind of become like the other pro leagues, and that meant a lot of time for these women that having to develop, but Caitlin and Angel, it's incredible what they're doing. There are some great players that they are passing on these records. It's not like they're passing, scrubs, but it is astonishing how much these records are just getting toppled. It
doesn't seem that. I got to counter. It doesn't seem that hard. Angel Reese gets 37 rebounds a night. She's like, Bill Russell.
I'm saying, she's getting 20 rebounds in games. I mean, it's not like she's like, oh, I got 5 rebounds and I broke the record. Like they're doing some pretty cool stuff.
No, I mean, I guess so. It's just funny. The record book seems thin because they're breaking these records with a lot of games left. That's the other thing.
Well, I don't think it's the record books are thin. It's the rookie record books are thin.
Right, the rookie.
Yeah.
Angel did set a record for double-doubles, so that was an overall record, wasn't it?
I thought it was double-doubles.
A streak.
A streak.
A streak of double-doubles.
Which that surprised me, too, that it wasn't that high a number of double-doubles in a row.
Considering like the Maya Moores, and there's been a lot of super talented people that could have held streaks like that. You're right. I mean, to EJ's point, some of the records are breaking, like Diana Taurasi. Like they are homegrown names that you would recognize.
But they're also blowing the records out.
That's true.
Yeah, like I wouldn't think Angel Reese is a better rebounder than Brittany Griner was as a rookie, but I guess she it's not even close based on these numbers. But regardless,
I think also real quickly
yeah.
too. I think there is something to do with pace of play too, and that's a big thing in the
Good point.
NBA. I think it's a big thing in WNBA especially because I mean, if you turn on WNBA game in 1998, I mean, you're talking about scores in the 60s. Like this, these scores are much higher.
Mm-hmm.
These women get the ball up and down the court. So that, not to take anything away from Caitlin Angel, that has a little something to do with this, I think.
Yes, an Angel's ability to miss a layup and get her own rebound reminds me of Moses Malone in 1982. It is unprecedented.
It's a little like a closer getting the win after blowing the save.
Angel Reese is getting 12.9 rebounds a game. She lives in the paint and she's shooting 38% from the field. She misses her shot and gets it back. She knows where to go. She's very special.
George Mikan would be proud.
Yeah.
I think Russell Westbrook, this kind of reminds me of that a little bit. When he was going for the triple-double, like he would do anything to make sure he got all those rebounds in.
Well, people rip her for being a little awkward around the basket, but I got to tell you, like, she's unbelievably relentless. I saw her, I think it was the other night, she had she shot the ball 4 times in one possession, and like nobody could keep her away from the ball. And eventually she scored, so I'm not going to rip her for that.
What's crazy to me, too, is when we watch Angel a lot in LSU, she was a great rebounder there, but I don't think we thought she was going to come in and be Dennis Rodman.
No.
Yeah.
I think we thought she was a great all-around player. Like, she could rebound, she could score, she could pass, she could even shoot from the mid-range. But she's gotten WNBA. She was like, all right, I know a role is going to get me on the court. And she's like, I'm just going to do that better than anybody. And to her credit, like, she's taking that role with pride.
But it seems to have affected her shooting in a big way. I've seen some metrics on her shooting. Like, all of a sudden, she can't shoot from the outside. I don't know if it's affected her confidence, but something's weird there. You're right, but she wasn't a bad shooter at all at LSU, and now she's just this rebounding machine. You guys don't remember Moses Malone. Moses Malone would pad his stats by passing himself the ball off the rim continuously, and nobody could move him. He was awesome. Go Sixers. All right,
Glad
Andrew.
you got that in.
Yeah, I mean, a little Sixers love back when we were good. There's a basketball behind me from that team. You have all this gear in your man cave. I have my 1986 76ers basketball with Mike Bantam, Clint Richardson, and Bobby Jones. So take that, Maggie.
Honestly, that you let everybody touch that, though. They shouldn't. You can let anyone with their, saucy barbecue hands putting their paws on that thing. We should be under glass.
The fact that you had that Carson Wentz poster anywhere near those Philadelphia legends, you should be ashamed of yourself, bro.
Okay.
Come on.
Growing up, my grandfather had a baseball signed by every member of the 1950 Phillies Whiz Kids, a famous team. Me and my cousin Toby went out on the driveway and had a hour-long catch with it, rubbed all the names off because we did not understand.
Attaboy, Toby.
No.
Yeah, Toby.
You're blaming Toby, too. No wonder Ernest Pendleton came to give you the business.
Toby, wasn't my idea. Toby's like, don't be a nerd, have a catch.
By the way, last hour, I'm going to stop naming names. I don't want to get in trouble. And now cousin Toby gets laid out.
At least he's related to me, so the lawsuit will be maybe a little less. All right. Thanks, Mr. Bogus. All right, coming up, we got to finally settle this wide receiver market. Will Brandon Aiyuk get paid next? Next on Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Man, I was on a hot streak on the Maggie and Pearl polls. I was destroying Maggie on all sorts of random stuff. Things with elevators, quarterbacks, you name it. I was winning. But now, today, Tuesday, old school, new school day here on Maggie and Perloff show, we have a poll up. Would you rather have old school wide receivers, pre-2004, or new school wide receivers? 67%, Maggie, went old school NFL wide receivers. This makes no sense to me. I just don't get it. You would rather have a guy with male pattern baldness running a 4.8 going down the field for the Raiders than Tyreek Hill? This is totally baffling to me.
Is that a shot at Tim Brown? I will not stand for that.
No, Fred Biletnikoff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute. Hold on.
I mean, they honestly, their only weapon was stick him everywhere. Otherwise, they couldn't run, jump, or catch a football. These new guys would blow them out of the water.
All right. Well, maybe the old guys had stick 'em and the new guys have gloves that could make you and I wide receiver 3 on some teams.
Factually true.
Yeah. So the gloves and the fact that you actually had to work to get off the line of scrimmage, and you couldn't just have someone breathe on you and get a flag 40 yards down the field. Give me the old school guys who really had to work at this and didn't get the amount of targets. Some of them didn't get the amount of targets, but I'm happy I'm finally going to win a poll because it's been rough. I got absolutely landslided yesterday on a variety of things. You're right, sports, non-sports. I just couldn't win.
Yeah. You guys get Art Monk and I get DK Metcalf. I don't even know how anybody voted that. Now, we also did our most impactful non-quarterbacks of the NFL season. We both gave our top 5 list. Did we do this as a poll or did we just throw we just put it out there? So just to recap, I went with number 1, Nick Bosa, 2, TJ Watt, 3, Micah Parsons, 4, Chris Jones, 5, Trent Williams. Maggie, you want to read your list?
Yes, I went with number 1, Trent Williams, 2, TJ Watt, 3, Travis Kelce, 4, James Cook, and 5, Cam Jurgens. And I think I realize why I'm losing to you so badly on this one is because I don't know if Cam Jurgens is not a household name, but guys, he's the new center for the Philadelphia Eagles. And if they can't execute the tush push, it's a wrap. Yes, big butts matter. This is the secret weapon that the Philadelphia Eagles rode all the way to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. And with no Kelce, if the new center can't do this, you're just a regular team again, Pearl. You're using 3 downs like everyone else, sometimes 4, instead of always using 4 downs.
The Eagles arguably have the worst back 7 in the history of the NFL in 2023. Like, if you can't tackle a single soul, it doesn't matter if you have Jason Kelce and Travis Kelce on offense. They have one concern and one concern only. That's what happens when you get past their defensive line. They were last in the league in every defensive metric the second half of last season. Cam Jurgens is not a top 10 most impactful Eagles player. Not even close, let alone 5 in the league. Yes. You're honestly telling me that Cam Jurgens is more important than Tyreek Hill and Myles Garrett? More impactful?
I'm telling you because of this play.
This play, they had it last year. They stunk.
Perloff, this play that still is hit or miss with the rest of the league. Somehow the Philadelphia Eagles 2 years ago could execute this to a T, yet half the teams in the league that try it fumble, lose the ball. Like it's this weird secret sauce. And I was just trying to do the thinking woman's. Not anyone could come up with Nick Bosa. Of course we know Nick Bosa. Of course I know Tyreek Hill. I'm trying to give you some next level. Let's really look at this. Who's impacting the game?
I would also say your number 4 pick, as bad as Cam Jurgens was, your number 4 pick is far worse. James Cook.
Listen, I admitted that was a bit of a homer pick.
Like, is he a top 5 most impactful Buffalo Bill non-quarterback? I think I could come up. Is he even the most impactful skill position player on the Bills?
Well, it's a by committee, and I didn't want to put that much pressure on Keon Coleman yet.
I'm reading a lot of experts are picking a breakout star in that wide receiver core. Everyone's into Khalil Shakir. I'm not hearing a lot of people talk about James Cook because running backs are just a product of the system.
Well, the real ones know Khalil Shakir has already been awesome, but the other part about this, who did single-handedly win a game for the Bills last year because they ran the ball? Dalvin Cook beat the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah,
and Josh Allen said it was like getting an A on the group project and not doing any of the work.
Now, what was the key difference between James Cook early in the season and James Cook later in the season?
Well, definitely the play caller, but Micah Parsons, who's on your list, was on the field that night in Buffalo. And what did he do? Jack squat, because if you are losing by 2 touchdowns or 1 touchdown and a field goal, Micah Parsons can't do what he does. He can't tee off because you just run the ball and he's neutralized. So I think my list is awesome. I realize I'm losing to you by a lot.
Wait, just one more. So
yes.
I want to be clear on this. James Cook is more impactful than Deion Dawkins?
Probably, because this is also Josh Allen. Josh Allen, I love Deion Dawkins. I know that.
Yes, he's also a left tackle in the NFL. He's incredibly impactful.
Yeah, but Josh Allen, the way that he runs, like if you have, they've been able to knock on wood, overcome things in the offensive line. Meanwhile, you have Chris Jones and I have Travis Kelce. That should be a wash. Both of those guys are most impactful.
Well, I went with age. I think Kelce's got to hit a wall at some point. He's also very distracted by touring. All right. Big thanks to Manny Ramirez, Andrew Kaplan, EJ Stewart, Andrew Bogish, Maggie. I think you look amazing in the closet today. But I'm still mad I lost the poll. See you tomorrow, Maggie and Perloff.
You're in a 5-minute break.